So I called my wife. I go, literally, you're never going to believe this, but you're talking to the new lead singer of Mötley Crüe. And Nikki did not like the fact that I said 5 records sold or 5 million. He goes, dude, fuck you, Crab. Like, that's a shitty attitude to have. And I go, the fuck are you talking about? Like, what do you mean that's a shitty attitude to have? He goes, this fucking record better sell 5 million. I love John 5. He's a brilliant guitar player.
Yep.
But it's not Tommy, Nikki, Mick, and Vince.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, like, she's showing me a sword swallowing routine in the front seat of my Jeep. And to me, I was just being disrespected.
Yeah.
I wasn't listed as they didn't even say, hey, Crab, thanks for the 5 years. Good luck in your future. My ex-wife called. She's still fucking with me. And it was just like this thing. I go, you know what? Gloves off. I'm not a fucking doormat for anybody. So I sued him. So I'm literally sitting in the booth, standing next to Vince. I sing a line, and then he sings the line. I just want to be busy, dude. I believe in this record. And again, the only way people are going to hear it is if I'm playing it live and people like yourself do the word of mouth thing. Listen, dude, I can tell you this right now. This is all I know how to do.
The air metal guru from Warren to Crüe. The air metal guru. Never forget Charlie too.
Hey, what an honor to welcome John Corabi to the show. John is the lead singer for the Dead Daisies. He was the frontman for a band called The Scream, who put out a fantastic album called Let It Scream in 1991. Put out 2 great albums with Union, which also feature Bruce Kulick from Kiss. He played with Ratt in the early 2000s. He was in Mötley Crüe when they put out the legendary 1994 album. And yes, he has a brand new solo album, New Day, coming out on April 24th on Frontiers Records. With that, John Corabi, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Fantastic, man. It's an honor to have you here. And so I want to talk a little bit about the Scream, Union, and Mötley, but I want to start with your solo record. You've released 3 singles. I've been playing New Day on my radio show on Rock 101 KLOL out of Houston, and you just put out a brand new video for a song called That Memory 3 days ago that I'll be playing this Saturday. But you're currently in the Dead Daisies, so what led you to say, hey, it's time for a new solo album from John Corabi?
Well, it was funny because I initially started doing this when I left the Daisies the first time. And I was like, okay. So I talked to Marty about doing a record with me. And he's like, well, you know, people do them different now. You know, they do a song and they throw it out there on streaming while you're working on the rest of the record. And to be honest with you, I can't even spell algorithm, let alone figure out what the hell it is. So I did the streaming thing on a couple of songs, Casi Bella, Your Own Worst Enemy.
Yep.
And it was okay, but it was like, I'm not sure I quite grasp what's happening here.
Yeah.
So as it turned out, the Daisies called, asked me to come back, did that. We did a best of tour. Then we did Light 'Em Up, the blues record. And last year, Frontiers, just out of the clear blue, reached out and said, hey, do you want to do a solo record? And I was like, yeah, you know what? Actually, I was going to do I don't want to say I was anti-label thing, but I was like, I don't even know how to spell algorithm. I'm going to let them figure it out. So I said yes. And then we were on tour. Daisies went on tour. And then the management just said, hey, we're going to take 2026 off. We're not doing anything. So I was like, this is perfect. I can finish my solo record and then go out and support it, do some shows. And, you know, so everything just kind of happened the way it was supposed to happen. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I God, I finished the record uh, last year, probably November, December.
Yeah.
The labels had it for like 6 months. They're really excited about it, and it's not even out yet, but we started releasing singles in December, and uh, I just finished a tour, 3.5 weeks in Europe, and it went great. So I'm like, yeah, let's do this, man. I've got a year off. Let's make it happen.
I just had Doug Aldrich on like a month and a half ago, and he has nothing but great things to say about working with you. So,
Yeah, I love
I've been,
Doug. He's awesome.
yeah. I just got in advance of the album, and I've been listening and playing the new singles. I'm just gonna give you my little perspective. So I listened to that Memory, the new video. Make sure you check it out, and I will have the purchase link for the album down below. But a lot of the lyrics, like in that Memory, I don't need that memory anymore. In New Day, yesterday is gone and you cannot change it. Today's the day to rearrange it. So it seems like a guy who is reflecting on his life and deciding, I don't know, and this is just my juvenile perspective, deciding that it's time to stop living in the past and time to start moving forward. Maybe that's a simple interpretation.
Well, it is, and you're pretty much spot on. But it's honestly like I have always, you know, I have always kind of lived my life that way. Um, without getting too redundant, the stories are all out there, but I kind of learned that lesson the hard way after my time with Motley.
Yeah.
Tommy and Nikki gave me some advice in the very beginning. When I joined the band, they were like, dude, just be careful. Everybody around you is going to say you changed, but it's really everyone around you starts looking at you differently. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I've got my friends. They're never going to do that, And but it was weird. Like being in that band was such a roller coaster ride. It was amazing. I had a great time with them, but it was weird. Like once they brought Vince back, I really sat there and I realized like all these companies, and you know how it is. Like when you're riding that crest, everybody wants you to play their guitars. Everybody wants to give you free clothing. Everybody wants you to come to the parties. And it was weird when Vince came back. It was like if I wanted to check my answering machine, I literally had to fucking call myself to leave a message because there was nothing on it. And it really made me sit back and go, you know what? You're the only person you can count on. And I just started like, without sounding too cliched, man, it's like I just started looking at the little things in life. You know, it's awesome. Today I got up and I wasn't creaking when I got out of bed, the bones, and I'm like, it's a good day, man. It's a new day for me to conquer the world. And so it honestly, it's just kind of like how I live my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I love that line. I don't even know where it came from, but that line in New Day that you just quoted.
Yeah.
But it's the truth. I
Yeah.
mean, yesterday's gone. You cannot change it. Today's the day to rearrange it, or today's a new day. Embrace it. And tomorrow's just a mystery that may or may not come at all. So just live your life, be in the moment, and go forward, man. Do your thing. And that memory is, yeah, it could be about a chick, it could be about a band, but it's like, why look at the past? Just move forward. I don't need that memory anymore. It's done. I lived it. I bought the shirt. Doesn't fit. Let's move on. You know what I mean?
I'm a Iraq vet. I was in the military for 22 years, and then I taught high school English for 12 years. And 3 years ago, I was like, you know what? Like I like teaching, but I'm just I'm passionate about music. It's been my life forever. And 2.5 years ago, I was like, you know what? I quit my job. I started doing this, started hosting a radio show, and now I'm making a go. So anyway, it's not about me, but
And just a little side note, I am a fan of your album critiques and different bands that you guys do. I have seen the one on the Motley '94 record, so I appreciate it. Well, the positive comments anyway. All good.
Yeah.
But no, it's cool, man. It's cool that you're doing that. It's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to like you were in a band called Angora in Philadelphia and you ended up making the move to LA, but I mean Philly had Cinderella, eventually they had Britney Fox. There was a scene. What made you decide, you know what? It's not going to happen for me in Philly. I'm going to LA.
Well, this is why, if you followed my career, my book is called Horseshoes and Hand Grenades.
Yep.
Because I find myself always at the right place, but the wrong time. That's the history of my career. And oddly enough, when I was in Philly with Tom Kiefer and a few of these other bands, most of these other bands that we're going to mention, like I was actually briefly, Tom and I worked together on in something. And then the band Tangiers, Doug Gordon, he was in my band. Dean Davidson, the singer for Britney Fox,
Yep.
was actually my drummer in a band that I was in. Yeah, so like it was a very ancestral thing. Anyway, long story even longer.
Yeah.
Johnny D,
Yeah.
who eventually played drums for Britney Fox and Duro,
Yep.
Johnny was my drummer. He went out on vacation to California with a friend of his, Steve Butera, and they came back raving about how awesome California was. At the time, in the Philadelphia, Jersey, that whole circuit, there was a huge club scene for cover bands, but nobody, like, there was maybe two places that you could play that played like that kind of hard rock, Cinderella, John Corabi kind of
The
music.
Galaxy and there was another one.
It was the Galaxy and the Empire Rock Room.
Yeah. Yep.
And so Johnny came back raving about California. Shortly thereafter, my wife and I was married at the time. We went out to California for a anniversary.
Yeah.
And I came back and I was like, holy shit, he's right. California was on fire. I'm talking 84.
Right.
And then I came home and I told everybody, we're moving to California. If you want to go with me, I'm going to California. Now, oddly enough, I'm sitting in LA, trying to get a record deal. I'm rehearsing with all the guys in my band came out one by one over the course of a year.
Yeah.
And we're rehearsing, we're writing, we're building up steam, picking up, we starting to become like the hot little commodity on Sunset Strip. And then I get a call from some of my friends back east. They're like, dude, Cinderella got signed. And I like, oh, awesome. Good for them. John Bon Jovi just happened to walk into a club. But if you follow the music industry, in New York, LA, like Seattle, as soon as one band gets signed, every band gets signed in that area.
Yeah.
So I'm literally sitting in bumper to bumper traffic. Cinderella got signed, Britney Fox got signed, Tangiers got signed, Heaven's Edge got signed,
Yep.
World War III, like all these bands. And I'm sitting in traffic because I was doing delivery services for movie companies, to make a living and support my family.
Yep.
I'm sitting in bumper to bumper traffic going, fucking A, Crab, you did it again. You took a left when everybody else was going right, and here you are. So, it eventually worked out fine for me, but it was just, don't think there wasn't a moment there where I was just sitting there going, every fucking musician that I'd ever played with in Philadelphia got a record deal.
Right.
And I was delivering films to people like Henry Fonda to their house. And I'm going, ugh, this sucks. But it worked out. It all worked out.
Stevie Rachelle told me that when he got to California, that you were the first band he saw. And he was like, oh my God, like, I didn't know the competition was going to be like this.
Well, you know what's funny? Like, we didn't realize it because, we were just four knuckleheads from Philadelphia. We didn't, we're like, whatever. But I knew these girls, Sherry and Val, and they lived in an apartment complex in the valley. And Stevie just happened to move in, and there was a party or a show at I don't know. I don't know if I was doing a gig or whatever, but Stevie came and I wound up talking to him through them, and we wound up becoming friends. And I was, I was at one of his early Tough shows before they were even signed. And, but it was it was funny. We all kind of supported each other, and yeah, you could do it, dude. There was another band, Sibling Rivalry. Like those guys, they were from like North Dakota or South Dakota, and they came down and they were living in LA, but there was like seven dudes, like the crew guys, the manager, the band, and they were living in like a 1-bedroom apartment. So anytime my wife and I would have, like Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, my wife would make like an eagle-sized turkey, and then like trays of lasagna, and we'd invite all our musician friends over, Stevie and Sibling Rivalry and all that stuff. But we all just kind of supported each other. It was fun. It was like this carefree, you know, uh, one for all for one type of thing, and I miss those days. It's quite funny, but some of the Sibling Rivalry, like their manager wound up being, some bigwig. Kevin Williamson wound up being like a bigwig with Atlantic Records. He worked with Mr. Big and a few other huge acts. So we laugh about it because he lives here in Nashville, and but we laugh about all the old days all the time. Whatever. It was an interesting time. Trust me.
Did it get close to happening with Angora, like the record deal?
Yeah, it was. I mean, we had a few. Gene Simmons tried to sign us at one point. I remember Pete Angelus and David Lee Roth came to see us multiple times. Actually, Pete Angelus was really interested in the band, and he booked us some studio time at Steve Vai's studio. And Steve actually produced about 3 or 4 songs that we did. We actually were very close with Warner Brothers was actually interested in the band. And we had this guy who actually wound up doing amazing things. I think he's won some Grammys or whatever, but he was an intern at the time, this guy, Rob Cavallo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know that name.
Yeah, Rob Cavallo produced all the Green Day stuff. He did some Dio records. And Rob was an intern. I believe he worked under Ted Templeman.
Okay.
And he saw our band and he loved our band. He produced one of our first demos. And he was really trying to get Warner Brothers to sign our band. But he came back and he's like, man, it was down to you guys or this other band that Ted wants to sign called the Bullet Boys. And they wound up going with the Bullet Boys, which, look, they had a great first record. They sold a lot of records. So, it was the right thing to do. But, yeah, we got close multiple times. Our problem wasn't the songs or the talent or anything. We just kind of self-imploded because, that whole sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Yeah.
LA scene really started to catch up with some of the members of the band, and I got pissed off, because people were more excited about partying than rehearsing and writing songs. So I just said, you know what? I didn't come here to be a babysitter. I'm out. And I just left the band.
Were those 3 songs that you were talking, are those the ones that ended up on that Kings of Sunset Strip compilation CD?
Some of them, there's so many demos of that band floating around.
Yeah.
I know it was funny. Somebody just played me a CD with like 11 songs on it or some shit that one of our crew guys had. And he's literally like, hey, if you want to, you want a copy of John Corabi's early music, I can send you a copy. Send me a self-addressed stamped envelope and $15 and I'll send you the CD. So he's printing CDs and making money off it. More power to him. But somebody played me a song I had, like, it was so caveman. It was called Weekend Love Affair. And I'm listening to this shit going, oh my God, I forgot about that song.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, I don't know how many songs I got registered with the, BMI and the Copyright Association, but there's about another 50 more that I forgot about that I never registered. So whatever.
Like, you talk about the guys getting into the party scene, and I know you end up, how do you get hooked up with the Racer X guys to do the Scream?
Well, we had done multiple shows with those guys, and we were, reasonably friendly with them. Knew Paul Gilbert. I was friends with Juan Alderete and Bruce Bouillet, and even their singer Jeff Martin, who actually wound up playing drums with Badlands.
Right.
But we would do shows together at the Troubadour or the Country Club or whatever, open for them. So I knew of them, they knew of us. And, it was funny. Robbie Crane said to me one time, because this is a long way around what you were saying and what Stevie said about the band.
Yeah.
But Robbie, even when I was in Ratt, we were talking and he goes, dude, I fucking loved your band, dude. Like, he goes, you guys were so fucking loud. And he goes, but we were sitting there looking at, like, these guys just in, like, ripped up jeans and leather vests. You guys had this total East Coast attitude. But we had so many amps on stage. Like, the only thing that we mic'd was the vocals and the drums. We didn't mic the bass and the guitar. And so it was, when we played, we were pummeling people.
Right. And
Robbie Crane's like, dude, that was just so cool. You didn't mic anything. It was just like, so it was a bit old school, but, but we were too stupid to realize it. I think that band could have done some great things. But again, we kind of discovered crack and literally got off the tracks a little bit. So it was like, oh, okay, we actually have to rehearse. Sorry.
Were you always pretty good about staying away from the party scene?
Yeah, I have to admit, like, my wife and I were just talking about it. We were immersed in the last few days. I got home from tour and I had a bit of an abscess tooth.
Yeah.
So I went to the dentist yesterday and we were just sitting there watching that TV series Narcos.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there and watching these fat old Mexican guys just shoot tequila, and they're just constantly doing coke. And I'm like, God, that doesn't even look fun.
Right.
And my wife is like, yeah, the couple times that I tried it, it was like, eh. And I'm just sitting there going, I never did it. Like, but even when I was back in Philadelphia, I got married at a really young age.
Yeah.
Prior to me doing the clubs and all that shit, the cover circuit, I was in a garage band with this buddy of mine, Chris Pisano.
Yeah.
And I wound up meeting his sister, Valerie, and I was like, whoa, She had been married prior, had a little daughter that was maybe a year or two old, and she was divorced. And so I started dating the sister, and I would go do my club thing, but it was like, I was kind of a husband and dad at like a reasonably young age. So when I was finished, I'd pack my guitar, pack my shit, and I would just go home and drive my daughter or walk my daughter to school the next day. And so I was always kind of grounded that way. And even in LA, like, listen, nobody loves to have a cocktail more than I do.
Yeah.
And I'm good with smoking a little weed once in a while. I can't sleep, so I'm gonna have a couple of hits, but I was never into the coke thing, never into that shit. Like, I'm like, no, I'm done. I did my gig, I got paid, I'm going home.
Right.
And that I've kind of always been that guy. It's just I'm like and then it's like I joined Mötley Crüe and I love those guys, but it was like, you know, seeing Tommy and Nikki when they would fall off the wagon, it was like they had typewriter jaw, and it was like that white shit in their fucking mouths and a ring around their nose, and I'm like, that doesn't look fun at all to me, not at all.
Right. Right.
They're digesting food they haven't even eaten yet. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm good with this shit.
Okay. When you get together with Shark Island, I keep thinking of Walt Woodward came in from Shark Island
Yes, sir.
for Scott Travis. But with the Scream, like when you get together with those guys, how long, like, do you slug it out in the clubs for a year, or what does it take to get that record deal with Hollywood?
Actually, to be honest with you, when I first joined, it was me, Bruce Bouillet, Juan Alderetti, and Scott Travis.
Yeah.
And we did a little bit of writing. Not sure if any of those, I don't believe any of those songs that we wrote actually made the record. But we actually did a few shows in Northern California because they were contractually obligated. They had booked some Racer X shows.
Okay.
So we went to North Carolina, or Northern California, under the Racer X monitor. Then we came back and we just started writing again, kept writing. And then Scott informed us that he had gone to, we didn't know, we had like a long weekend off or whatever. Scott flew over to England, auditioned for Priest, and wound up getting the gig. So he left. Then it was like, okay, everything's on hold. We got to find a drummer. And Walt came in, and no disrespect to anybody, but I think from a perspective of the type of music that we were doing, it was actually a blessing. Scott Travis belongs in Judas Priest, and Walt definitely fit groove-wise better what the Scream was trying to do. So we started working with Walt. We started writing, and it was weird. Like shortly after that, we had maybe, I don't know, Man in the Moon and 3 or 4 other songs written, and Hollywood Records, they kind of formed Hollywood Records, and the president of Hollywood Records had actually been Racer X's attorney, this guy Peter Paterno. So, and then they hired this lady named Rachelle Matthews. Rachelle was at Capitol, and she had been interested in Angora. So once they found that out, or once the guys in what eventually became the Scream found out Peter Paterno was there, we had a manager, John Greenberg, who's still with me today.
Okay.
He reached out to Peter Paterno and Rachel Matthews and said, "Hey, Corabi's now with Juan, Bruce, and Walt Woodward." And so we wound up doing a showcase. We set up a showcase for Hollywood Records. But as you know, the minute one record label shows interest in a band, everybody and their grandmother wants to see what the interest is.
Yeah.
So we went from one showcase to doing like 2 or 3 a day for like a week. And we played our 4 or 5 songs.
Yeah.
And by the end of the week, our manager came and said, "Well, we've actually been offered a couple of deals." And then we all sat and talked about it. We went out to dinner, and because the guys knew Peter and I had met Rachel, we're just like, and if we're being honest, Hollywood Records was owned by Disney. So we're like, there's really not going to be a shortage of cash there.
Yeah.
So we said, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just go with Hollywood Records. And we wound up signing a deal. And they said, okay, you've got like 4 or 5 really cool songs. Just go back to your studio and write.
Okay.
And so that version of the band with Walt Woodward, we had never done a show. We just, Hollywood Records is now, you know what I mean? And we just had our manager reach out to Peter Paterno, and then it went from like 1 showcase to like 8 showcases. And we got a deal, and then we just sat in a room and wrote for like 8 months.
Okay. Was everybody on board with Man on the Moon as the first video? And I only asked that just and I love Man on the Moon, but I thought Outlaw would have been an amazing video.
Well, you know what's funny? They put Outlaw out first.
Right, but not a video.
That came out as like a teaser track.
Okay.
And to be quite honest with you, I don't know how it went over. We never really got any feedback about it.
Okay.
But it was funny that so Man in the Moon, it's FYI too, because I've noticed a lot of people have commented about whether or not it's like my song or Jamie Brown's song. Jamie Brown was singing with Racer X prior to me joining. And that's a song that they had started already.
Okay.
And but when I came into the thing, I was like, let's slow it down and give it more of a Zeppelin groove.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of added this big jam thing at the end. You know, so I had a little bit of writing to do with that, not much. But now we went out and we did, Bruce and I, they put us in a tour bus prior to the record coming out. And I think we hit just about every classic rock or rock station in America over the course of like 5 weeks. Like prior to the record even coming out.
Right.
And we kind of, I don't remember totally whose choice it was to put Man in the Moon out first with the first video.
Right.
But I just remember my manager, one of my managers, a guy named Tim Heine, who I adore. They were partners, John Greenberg and Tim Heine. Tim goes, "Man, if you get 10 fucking radio stations adding that song, it's too fucking long. I don't think anybody's going to play it." And we're like, okay. Well, it was funny. You know, they did the reporting thing on Tuesdays.
Yep.
So songs out a week, following week, we get a report. And there's like 38 stations playing Man in the Moon.
Okay.
And following week, following Tuesday, it went from 38 to 62. Then it was 62 to 94. and it just kept building, and it got to the point where there was like 180 radio stations playing that fucking track, and it just went over. The only thing, we had to shorten the video a little bit for MTV, but Tim finally, he goes, all right, I was wrong, I'll buy everybody dinner. Dinner's on me. You know what I mean? But I don't know who, I don't know if it was us or if it was a joint thing, but we went with Man in the Moon first. But there was, Outlaw had come out first to radio prior to Man in the Moon.
Sure. And I'll just say this. We had a video just come out the other day, and one of the guys on the channel said that he told his friends and family that if he ever died before his parents, he wanted father, mother, son played at the funeral. And that song is just so important to myself and so many people. So anyway.
You know what? That was one of the, and it's great. Like, again, my manager, who's been with me, God, since 1989. He just sent me. It was actually great. He sent me 2 ticket stubs to a show that the Scream did, that he had saved, and it was funny. I don't know if you remember this, but on the airplanes, you used to get the in-flight magazines,
Yeah.
and they would have these advertisements where you could order a watch for like $15, and it would put your logo or whatever. So he had the Scream album cover put on a watch, and he bought one for himself and one for his father, who's since passed. And so he sent me 2 ticket stubs, his father's watch, and he saved, I don't know how he got them, but the handwritten lyrics of when I wrote Father, Mother, Son.
Wow.
And he just sent them back to me. He goes, hey, dude, I found these in a box, man. I thought you'd appreciate it. So I was just sitting there looking at it going, man, I totally remember sitting with my acoustic guitar at my kitchen table, writing the lyrics out on a notepad, and then putting it onto a cassette tape to play for the guys the next day. So that was a very special gift from my manager. It was awesome.
Was there any talk of that's gotta be a single? We've gotta, that's the big ballad, not.
No, you know what's funny? I wrote that song. It was such a, like, I'm such a victim of like, I'll see something and it'll trigger whatever in my head. And I watched a commercial on the TV. My son was really small. He was still, God, I want to say he was still in diapers, but he was running around the house. He had no shirt on, and I was just sitting there with my acoustic guitar, and they had these commercials. It was a public service announcement, and it was this black and white commercial, and it was a father, and he was saying, son, I wish you would have told me. I didn't know. I told you could talk to me about anything. And as he's talking, the camera's panning out, and they give you the impression that he's looking down talking to his son. Well, they pan all the way out, and he's talking to his son's headstone. And then the camera goes black, and it says, teach your kids about drugs. And I'm telling you that I like watched that commercial, and then I looked at my son, and I was just like, I have no idea how I would react if I was in that position. And it was the weirdest thing. I can't explain it, but at that moment, I literally picked up my guitar and I walked over to my kitchen table, and it was like, not to be spiritual, not to be weird, but it was like I was literally not playing it. I was watching myself. It was like just coming through me. And the first thing I wrote was, Father, thanks for playing with my friends and me. And it's, again, after seeing that commercial, it was like it was the son. If he could speak, he's obviously passed. But it's the son saying everything that he wanted to say to his dad, everything he wanted to say to his mother, everything he wanted to say to his parents. And it just worked.
Yeah.
And I'm not bullshitting. I probably wrote that entire song in about an hour. It just came. And it's one of those things that still, you know, even with my new record, there's a song in there called Laurel.
Yeah.
And it literally came about from watching the
Oh. These kind of glitches and cutouts happen all the time with Zoom, and usually I edit out the whole thing. But when John finally gets his connection back, it's like an all-time save with his first comment. So that's why I left part of it in. So anyway, you'll see what I'm talking about right now. Happens all the time.
my ex-wife called. She's still fucking with me. Unbelievable. Anyway, what was I? Oh, so
You were talking about the song Laurel.
yeah, and it's weird. I literally just sat here and I watched that Netflix documentary called Echoes in the Canyon.
Okay.
And I was like, my wife and I have this thing because I'm a bit of a nerdy music fan.
Oh.
So, like, she'll discover a new song, you know, she'll hear something by like Grand Funk Railroad, or right now, her new favorite song is Sail Away from Deep Purple on the Burn record.
Right. Right.
So I sit there, you know, we'll be bellied up to a bar somewhere, and I'm like, well, they had a singer, he did Hush, but Richie Blackmore didn't like him, so they got Ian Gillan, you know, Jesus Christ Superstar, blah, 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 blah. And I'll just show I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
But she always says, I was born 10 years too late.
Right.
And I go, okay, well, I just saw that Netflix documentary, and it's just the stories that they were telling, like, and all those cats that used to live on Laurel Canyon. And then I found myself going, fuck, I was born 10 years too late. And it was one of those things where I was just so inspired by that and that whole bohemian vibe that they had going on Laurel Canyon. I literally sat down and wrote that song in like an hour. And then I had it, put it on my phone. I played it for Marty when we were doing the record. And he goes, this is great, dude. This is awesome. Let's put it on the record. So we just, you know, but Father, Mother, Son is one of those things where I just saw something, it moved me, and the universe gave me a gift.
My dad passed away in October, and like the day, I don't even want to talk about it because if I talk about it, then I'll get all wrecked. But the day after that, like I play that song, and anyway. So
Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad it can be like it's weird. I've had so many people. That's the one song throughout. You know, I mean, hell, that Motley record or the Scream record is 36 years old. And that one still to this day, I meet people and they're like, "Oh, my brother or my mother or my father, or my son," and then it was weird. Like even you know, Dave Williams. Oh God, I'm having a brain fart right now.
let the bodies hit the floor.
Yes, and you know, Dave passed away. He was a sweet kid, and his friends from Texas, they said, "Hey, dude, could you do us a favor and handwrite the lyrics to Father, Mother, Son?" So I did like this cool, like I found a font and I wrote out the lyrics and I printed it out, and they had it framed for Dave's mother.
Wow.
but they played that song at his funeral.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot to me.
Oh.
He was a good friend, and you know, so it's just one of those things, man, that everybody at some point can connect with the sentiment there. You know what I mean?
And I feel like when you look at the new album, and if people know you from the Scream, I mean, obviously you have that slow melodic side of you, but if you look at the Mötley Crüe album and the Scream album, your new album is definitely more rootsy and, you know, maybe not what people might expect, but I think it's fantastic because that's what I've kind of grown into in my old age.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, multiple reasons. I mean, I've been doing acoustic shows
Yeah.
forever. That was what I learned to play on. And I can honestly sit here with a straight face and tell anybody that I've never written a song that didn't start on an acoustic guitar. So I'm a huge fan of that. I don't want to say the softer side, but the nuances of the percussion and that, you know, you can hear every note on the acoustic. And then it was funny when we were doing the Scream album, Eddie Kramer produced it.
Yeah.
Well, while he was working with us pre-production to get us ready to do our record, he was also advising Steve Marriott and Peter Frampton. They were getting ready to put Humble Pie back together again. And they came into our studio, and I asked Steve, like, I go, dude, you have no idea, like, how much of a fan I am of your work. I don't care if you play the spoons, bro. Like, would you do something on my record? And Steve had heard a few of the songs, including Father, Mother, Son. And he goes, yeah, all right, mate. You know, and he goes, you know, it's great. I've been listening to your music. And he goes, all your songs seem like you could sit just by yourself with an acoustic guitar and play all those songs. And he goes, that's a good song. When you can sit and entertain an audience, blah, 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 whatever. So I grew up with Creedence, Three Dog Night, Grand Funk Railroad, Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Stones. And the thing that I loved about that music was that they were allowed to be creative. And you'll know this being involved with a radio station. Thing that I hate about music nowadays, and it seems it really became prevalent really in the 80s. Once all these bands started selling records, it was like this genre started, hair metal or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Right.
But nowadays, it's like as soon as you put out a single or a record, everybody wants to figure out what box it belongs in.
Right.
It's like, is it classic rock? Is it grunge rock? Is it just rock? Is it metal? You know, and it's like, dude, seriously?
Right.
And I just sit back and I think about, you know, for example, the Stones, greatest rock and roll band on earth, you know? But you listen to some of their stuff, you know, back when they were, you know, doing like Exile on Main Street and Sticky Fingers and all this stuff. It wasn't unusual for them to write a song like Dead Flowers or Honky Tonk Woman or I'm Just Waiting on a Friend, Wild Horses.
Yeah.
Which, moving to this time, you could take any of those songs, would probably be considered country.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And that's all I wanted to get back to was that time and era where, you know, a band like Creedence could do Traveling Band.
Yes.
Or, you know, Up Around the Bend, but then turn around and write Who'll Stop the Rain. Or, you know what I mean? It's like they were just, it seems to me like those bands had a little more creative freedom to just do what they wanted to do and not worry about categories. So I've always been that guy. I've always loved that type of music. And if you looked at my phone, I've got everything from Black Sabbath to Tony Bennett on my phone. Like I just love music.
Yeah.
And to me, there's two categories: good music and bad music. And
That's what I hear is 1970s, like you say, not, and again, not to categorize it, but when you say CCR and the Stones, I'm like, what I hear would fit into that realm anyway.
right. But you know, it's like uh it was just a different time. And I am fortunately older than I'm probably the oldest person in the room right now. But um you know, I grew up in, now if you've heard the whole record, there's a song in there, 1969.
Yes, it
And that came,
rocks.
yeah, and I'm like, that came about completely on a fluke. I was sitting here watching the news with my wife, and I go, you know what's crazy? I go, I don't ever, I said, I remember us being this divided in like the late 60s, early 70s when the Vietnam War was going, because you had the hippie movement, the straight movement, anti-war, pro-war, like all this shit. And I said, we were really volatile.
Yeah.
And then you had the civil rights movements and all this stuff. I go, I remember that.
Yeah.
So I sat down and wrote those lyrics. I'm like, you know, the sad part about those lyrics is we're here 60 years later and we haven't learned a fucking thing. So yeah, it's like I'm just taking these things and I'm going back and thinking about how beautiful, like, the creative freedom all those bands that I grew up listening to had. And again, like, without sounding redundant, I think I've said this in every interview I've done since we started with the interviews, but it wasn't unusual for a guy like me growing up in Philadelphia to go see Black Sabbath on Monday, then go see Cat Stevens or James Taylor on Tuesday, and then you would go see Yes or Jethro Tull or Mahavishnu Orchestra on Wednesday.
Right.
And then you had Foghat, Free, Humble Pie, Bad Company, like all the. So and then there was other times too that I even went to go see somebody like Glenn Campbell,
Yeah.
because I respected Glenn Campbell as a guitar player and just the purity of his voice.
Right.
So I'm like, that's what I want to get back to. I don't know if I'm achieving it, but that's what I want to get back to.
Right.
And that's what I miss about the music business. We just don't have that anymore.
No. When the Scream is trying to get off the ground, and I'll finish with the Scream. What did you think when I mean grunge starts to happen, if you want to label it grunge, but when did you go, uh-oh, this might be an issue?
I didn't really look at it as being an issue because I wasn't smart enough to see how fast America digests fads.
Yeah.
I saw Nirvana in England when we were there doing, I want to say it was 1991, December of 91. And Nirvana came over and played this tiny little hole in the wall pub in London.
Wow.
And they did two shows, like a 7:30 night show and then another one at 10. And the place probably held 200 people and there was probably 1,000 outside. And I remember a couple of the guys in the band going, uh-oh, what is happening here? But I didn't think that all of these bands that were so successful, like your, you know, Motley's, Def Leppard's, Warrant, you know, whoever, LA Guns, I just didn't see the industry tossing them aside
Right.
as they did. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I thought that there was room for everybody, and I was sadly mistaken. But but I also believe that movements like that are necessary because, I mean, fuck, even back as far as the Beatles. The Beatles were successful, and then what did the record industry do? They signed every fucking British band. It was like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Who, the Kinks, the Dave Clark Five, the whoever. And then it's like, then the next fad comes in, and it's like, all right, so the Beatles actually rode that out, and the Stones, and the Who, but some of the other, I don't want to call them B artists, but the B-rate ones,
Yep.
they kind of fall to the side.
Yep.
And it was the same. I mean, if you look at the 80s, LA was the hot spot. Every band was getting signed. Palm Tree Hair, like the whole bit. I think Guns N' Roses kind of opened the can a little bit with Appetite for Destruction and toughened things up,
Yep.
which opened the door for a lot of these Seattle bands.
Yeah.
But, uh, now the Motleys, the Def Leppards, the Bon Jovis, they figured out a way to how to stay relevant. But all the B tier and C tier bands that were copying, the Motleys, Def Leppards, and Bon Jovis, they all kind of fell along the wayside. So the industry tends to eat itself every 10 years, whatever. And, so it was a bit necessary.
Sure. When you get offered, you're still in the Scream when you get offered the Motley gig. Was there any hesitation? Like, I got this deal with the Scream. Was there any hesitation?
Yeah, dude. I mean, to be honest with you, again, I don't mean it. I told Tommy and Nikki this, and they were laughing their ass off. So I didn't own a Motley record. I had never seen. Even Tommy goes, like, now you got to understand. Like, at this point, I had already been in the band like 2.5 years. We did the record.
Yeah.
It's mixed, mastered in the can. Now we're going to start rehearsing for the tour. And Tommy and Nikki and everybody's like, well, Crab, you got to sing everything. What do you want to do from our back catalog? And I was like, oh, fuck, here we go. Yeah, listen, can I get your records? And then I'll kind of listen to everything. And so they were like, wait, you don't have any of our records? And I'm like, no. So then Tommy's sitting there, he goes, just out of curiosity, bro, have you ever seen us before? And I go, no. And he's like, why? And I go, I don't know, like, I'm just more into, and I just rattled off a bunch of other bands that I was really into.
Yeah.
And I said, to be honest with you, a lot of the 80s stuff just kind of went over my head. I just,
Yeah.
And they were just pissing themselves laughing. They're like, this is insane, dude. Like, all the singers we could have had, and we got the one guy who was not a fan of the band. I wasn't a fan, but I wasn't like, like, I just didn't know that much about them.
Yeah.
So when they asked me to join, I was like, I don't think I'm going to get this gig. And to be honest with you, I called them to just thank them for a plug that they had given the Scream in a magazine.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, hey, dude, thanks for the plug. Blah, yada, yada. How you doing, man? It's cool. Hey, if you'd ever. And Nikki goes, yeah, whatever, dude. Anyway, Vince is out. We need a singer. What are you doing on like Monday? And I'm like, and I got off the phone with him, and I was like white, and my mouth was open. My wife's like, what did they say? I go, they want me to join their band, dude. So it was like, and even still, 2 days later, I texted Nick or called Nikki. I go, hey, do me a favor, bro. Can you have the lyrics there for me? Because I don't know your songs. Okay. And I went into this thing like, I'm not going to get this gig. There's no fucking way. Like, there's no way I'm going to get this gig.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go and I'll just get to hang out with the guys and thank them again for the plug. And, maybe they'll help me write something for the next Scream record. And still to this day, 30 some years later, I still sit there and people talk to me about Motley and I go, for the life of God, I have no fucking idea how I got that gig. Not a clue. Because we couldn't have been more opposite in a lot of different ways. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
the one guy that I had the most in common with was Mick.
Right.
Like musical tastes.
Right.
And I'm just sitting there going, I'm literally looking around the room. I'm going, how did I get here? You know what I mean? So it was interesting to say the least.
What was it like when you told the guys in the Scream, like, hey guys,
Well,
sorry?
I told them immediately.
Okay.
And now just prior to this phone call, and this is also going to sound very spiritual or very,
Yep.
but I truly believe that the universe gives you things that you need when you need it. And it was weird. Just prior to that phone call, I was in the Scream on tour. My mom calls and she goes, hey, I just want you to hear it from me. I've got cancer and they gave me, it's terminal. And I'm like, oh. So I have that call. Then I'm on tour with the Scream and my wife at the time calls me and it's like, hey, your son's at Cedar Sinai. He's in intensive care. He's got diabetes. So I'm like, and then shortly afterwards, I get this call to join Mötley Crüe. So when I told the Scream guys, they're like, dude, if you don't do this, you're an idiot. Because I was content where I was at. So I go, okay, So I went to the audition, and I sang 3 or 4 songs, and then they asked me to come back the next day. Next day, it was awesome but uncomfortable. It was awesome because I walked in and Heather Locklear, Brandy Brandt, and Mick's wife Emmy were there. So that was enjoyable. But on the other side of the room was the manager, the accountant, all the lawyers, and they were like not having it. Like they did not want me to be there at all.
Right.
So I did my thing, and then somehow later that night, we started working on a couple song ideas. The guys realized I could play guitar,
Yeah.
and then they left the room, came back in, sat on Tommy's drum riser, and they go, "Well, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. Welcome to the crew, dude." And they're like, "But you can't tell anybody." I'm like, okay, I'm seriously being punked right now, and that TV show isn't even out yet. So I'm like, can I tell my wife? And they're like, of course. So I called my wife. I go, literally, you're never going to believe this, but you're talking to the new lead singer of Mötley Crüe. And I'm like, I literally went home and I walked in my door and it was my wife was there. Niels Lozauer was at my house, the world famous photographer.
Yep.
he knew that it was going down because Nikki called him and asked him, like, hey, what's the deal with this Corabi guy? And Neil goes, dude, he's a great guy,
Yeah.
good dude. You know, I love his Scream record.
Yeah.
But I walked in and I go, I'm singing for Mötley Crüe. Neil was actually pissed because he goes, you mean I'm not getting another Scream record? Fuck.
Right.
He goes, fuck Sixx. Whatever. But yeah, it was the weirdest thing, dude. I still to this day, I scratch my head
Sure.
and I go, you know what? The only thing that I can think of, again, without sounding crazy or spiritual, is like I said, I had just found out about my mom
Yeah.
and my son. About a month or two later, I was offered this Motley gig, which gave me the financial freedom to take care of my mom and my son. And then, oddly enough, my mom passed away. And then, like a month later, or month or two later, Motley brought Vince back. So it was like I had that gig for that one purpose, and that was to financially take care of my mom and my son. Period. And you know what? We did a pretty good record to boot.
Yeah. Uh, and I just have like a couple Motley questions, but this might be a stupid question. Is it hard for you to come in and go, all right, guys, here's my ideas. I think we should do this.
Well, the guys used to laugh at me all the time because I was I don't want to say I was intimidated because I didn't really know what I was stepping into. Again, I didn't really have any of their records.
Right.
I mean, I kind of knew from MTV or whatever.
Right.
I had no idea what I was stepping into. So I wasn't intimidated that way. But they used to laugh at me because I would go to suggest something, like an idea for a song, and I'd go, hey guys, um, I'm not trying to be an asshole or anything, but like, what if we did this? And a lot of times they would just sit there and roll their eyes. Well, they wound up getting me a t-shirt that said, I'm not trying to be an asshole or anything, ... And they're like, bro, just say what's on your mind, bro, and stop fucking prefacing everything with, I'm not trying to be an asshole. So that part of it, I was a little intimidated because I'm like, these guys have had a ton of success. You know what I mean? I, like, who am I to like step into their world and tell them how to write a song?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that part was weird. And then to be honest with you, like I said, all the managers and agents and the record label and all that shit, they didn't want me there to begin with.
Right.
So I kind of felt like a little bit like I was swimming upstream, like somebody would wake me at any minute and it would all be like some silly dream, whatever. So
Did any of the guys try to reassure you? Look, don't worry about them, because I'm sure the management obviously wanted Vince in. But did the guys in the band try to make you feel better about it?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember at one point, I forget what video we were doing, but there was a budget for I'm not sure if it was Hooligan's Holiday or Misunderstood.
Right.
Now at that point, I mean, 94, I was in the band 2 years.
Yeah.
And a budget came to rehearsal, and the accountant had faxed it to our tour manager, this guy Mike Amato that used to hang out with us all the time. And he said, have the guys sign this and send it back to me. It was like we're approving this budget thing.
Yeah.
So Nikki signed it, Tommy signed it, Mick signed it, and then Mike brought it to me and I signed it. And it got sent back into the business management office. And this guy, Chuck, just had to come apart. And he was yelling at Mike Amato. And Mike came downstairs and he was livid. And Nikki goes, what's up? And he's like, man, dude, fucking Chuck Shapiro just ripped me a new fucking asshole because I had you guys sign the thing and Corabi signed it as well. And he's mad because John's not a part of the band. And like he's pissed off that John saw the budget and signed it and all this other kind of shit. And Nikki immediately walked over to the phone, picked the phone up, called Chuck and said, Chuck, John's a member of the fucking band. If you don't get over it, you can pack your shit and get fuck off. He's a member of the band. He signed the budget. That's how it is. And if you don't like it, you can take whatever, give us our books back, and you can move along. And I just sat there. I was like, whoa, okay, like, okay. So again, I was uncomfortable that
Yeah.
somebody they had been with for 10 years was being reamed a new asshole.
Right.
But Tommy, Nikki, and Mick all, you know, in the beginning went out of their way to make me feel at home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When you heard the finished 94 album, did you feel like that is what we were going for? We achieved it.
I don't think we knew what we were going for. We were just four dudes sitting in a room jamming.
Okay.
And then we demoed everything and we took it up to Bob Rock. And then we sat with Bob Rock and he literally dissected everything down to literally the foundation of each song. And we made whatever changes needed to be made. And we rebuilt everything. But when I heard, it was actually my first argument with Nikki Sixx. We were sitting listening to the record and we were just like, oh my God, dude, this is fucking, love this record. We all love the record. And I just made a passing comment in the studio after listening to the last track, and it was all done. We all just sat there and looked at each other. And I just said, well, boys, 5 records sold or 5 million sold, we did a good job. And Nikki did not like the fact that I said 5 records sold or 5 million. He goes, dude, fuck you, Crab. Like, that's a shitty attitude to have. And I go, the fuck are you talking about? Like, what do you mean that's a shitty attitude to have? He goes, this fucking record better sell 5 million. You know what I mean? And I'm like, dude, I didn't mean anything by it. I was just saying, like, mission accomplished. Like, we did a great fucking record here. And so we got into a bit of a tiff about that one.
Okay.
But I was just blown away at what we were able to accomplish musically. And you got to remember, even though it's like, you know, everybody's like, oh, John Corabi did that one record with, it wound up being like, well, I don't count Generation Swine because I didn't sing on it.
Right.
But it actually wound up being almost 2 full records because we did the 94 album, but then there was so much music left over that we did another record called Quaternary,
Yep.
which here in America only had 5 songs on it.
Right.
But in Japan and Europe, it was almost a full record. It was 9 songs.
Okay. Right. Right.
So, you know, there was 2 albums of material that we worked on that was, I thought it was pretty fucking awesome, dude. You know what I mean? In my honest, you know, opinion.
If there is an album from back in those days that people just universally say like, holy shit, maybe I didn't know it at the time, but I learned it later, that 94 album is the one. A friend of mine threatened to kill me if I didn't ask you about the Personality 9 sessions and specifically these songs, La Dolce Vita, The Year I Lived in a Day, and I Lived to Watch Us Live, You Lived to Watch Us Die. Like, can you tell me anything about what happened to those songs?
Honestly, part of the deal when I left or left was asked to leave, however you want to put it.
Yep.
For obvious reasons, Motley Crue is a big business.
Right.
So I was required to turn in any work tapes, because we used to rehearse, and we had these at the time, they were DAT machines. So there'd be like 4 DAT machines lined up, and you hit play and record on the first one, and all of them would record. But we recorded all of our rehearsals, and I had this huge box with everything was labeled, this rehearsal, that rehearsal, whatever. But for obvious reasons, when I left, they asked me to turn those tapes in so that I wouldn't, 10 years from now be selling bootlegs, whatever. So, but there was songs there, but some of them too, like, God, what was it? I think it was called Glitter
Yeah.
on the Generation Swine
Yep.
record.
Yep.
Was initially a song that I started working with them on called Bang.
Okay.
I worked on Afraid. I worked on Confessions. Let Us Pray, obviously. There is a really horrible version from a rehearsal with me singing, and I don't even think we had lyrics. I'm scatting a melody.
Right.
But some of the stuff that was from that Personality number 9 did wind up on, which was part of my lawsuit with those guys.
Yeah.
And again, it was nothing. It was nothing they said to me, but once they told me that they were bringing Vince back, their manager Alan Kovac said, "Hey, why don't you on Monday or Tuesday have your guys come into my office with your managers, and we'll sort all this shit out." So, a couple days, obviously had the weekend to like mull over everything that was happening. And I don't remember if it was a Monday or Tuesday, but we all went into the office, and Alan said to me, in no uncertain terms, he said, "I want you to help them finish this record." And I said, "Okay, whatever." He goes, "Now here's the deal." He goes, "I can tell you right now, Elektra is ecstatic that Vince is back. And they're literally talking about investing like a couple of $1 million into a promo thing, all this other shit." And he goes, "John, in all honesty, you have like 9 co-writes on this record." And he's like, "You're actually, if we play this the right way," he goes, "you're going to make more money being out of the band than you would if you were in the band, because you're going to start seeing money on record 1."
Right.
And I was like, okay. Now, about 4 or 5 days pass, and then I start getting the calls from Scott Humphrey, Tommy Lee, Nikki Sixx. They're like, "Hey, dude, can you come into the studio this morning and maybe help us do some guitars?" And I initially told them, I said, "I'll do anything you want me to do as long as the guys are cool. You want me to play guitar? As long as Mick's cool with it, I don't care. I'll be there." Great. So they're called. They go, "Hey, can you come in and do some guitars for us? We had Mick here last night. We couldn't get anything out of him. Can you come in?" "Yep, sure." So I'd go in, and this was going on for like a couple weeks. I'm going in every morning at like 10 a.m. I'm bringing bagels and coffee and shit in the morning. I'm like Mr. Homebody.
Right.
I'm playing guitar with the guys till about, midnight till about noon, 1 o'clock. Vince would show up. We would take a lunch break. I'm sitting at a table with Vince is sitting to my right, Nikki's on my left. I'm sitting there bullshitting with them. Cool. They're talking about the plans for the record, and then it's like, all right, back up to work after lunch. Vince is doing a vocal. I'm sitting in the back of the room with Tommy. Tommy's sitting there going, fuck, dude. He's fucking ruining the year I lived today. He goes, bro, go in there and sing it to him. And I'm looking at him like, are you shitting me right now? So, yeah, dude, it's all good. It's all good. Vince is like, yeah, man, come on in. So I'm literally sitting in the booth, standing next to Vince. I sing a line, and then he sings the line. Okay, crap, do that other. Okay, so I sing a line, he sings a line. So this is how it was going for almost a month. And then one day we're at the studio, and the phone rings, and I hear Nikki upstairs. He had the studio above his garage. He goes, somebody answer the phone. So I'm sitting with Vince, and I pick up the phone. I hit the button. I'm like, hello, and it's Mick. He goes, what's up, you bastard? What are you doing? And I'm like, hey, Mick, I'm just kind of hanging out at the studio. I did some guitars this morning, and, Vince is doing vocals. I'm just kind of hanging out. And he goes, what do you mean you did guitars this morning? And I go, yeah, I said, I've been here almost every day doing guitars. And he goes, put those motherfuckers on the phone. So I hit hold, hang the phone up. I go upstairs. I go, Mick wants to talk to you guys, and he doesn't sound happy. And then my phone never rang again. I don't hear anything.
Right.
So now at this point, I've already started putting Unity together with Bruce Kulick. We've started writing. Bruce comes into the studio about, 8 months later, 9 months later, and he throws the Generation Swine record on the fucking table. He goes, thanks for telling me, dick. And I'm like, telling you what? He goes, the Motley record came out. And I'm like, what? So I take the record, I open it, and obviously immediately I start looking at the songwriting credits, and I'm not really listed on anything but Let Us Pray. Then I start looking at the additional musicians. I'm not listed.
Right.
Then I start looking at the special thanks, and I'm like, I'm not even listed there. And so I talked to my manager, one manager, Tim, and I told him, I go, dude, I can't believe the management, the label, nobody told me this record's coming out. I said I had to go buy one yesterday. And I go, I have no songwriting credits. I'm not listed as a guitar player, backing vocals, and I could clearly hear my voice on Let Us Pray. And I go, what the fuck? So Tim made a call to the management, and apparently, I don't know if Nikki called or somebody from that camp called Tim Heine back, and they're like, why would we thank John on our record? We didn't thank Vince on the one we did with fucking John. And it was just like this thing. I go, you know what? Gloves off. I'm not a fucking doormat for anybody. So I sued him.
Yeah.
And, it was just like, no. And I just, I tried to find whatever tapes I did have, whatever. But again, I had to turn a lot of that shit in when I left the band. But
So they weren't paying they weren't paying you the publishing for those songs and just saying, hey, we're just not going to put it on the record. They didn't pay you for it, and they didn't put you on the record.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
You did not get paid publishing, even though that guy had said, hey, you wrote 9 of these songs.
Well, that was his words. He
Right.
goes, you have 9 co-writes on this
Right.
song. And I'm like, yeah. And the way it's funny, even on the first record, like the way we worded everything was that we were going to share equally on the publishing.
Yep.
That's what Van Halen did.
Yep.
Now, they may want to argue with me till they're blue in the face, but I don't really give a shit at this point. But like the song "Drift Away,"
Yeah.
I wrote "Drift Away." Nothing in that song changed at all. We needed another song. I played it for them. They liked it. Mick came up with those guitar solos and stuff. But I had that song written, but the way our contract was worded, it didn't matter who wrote what. We all shared equally in the thing. So, like, my beef was I was literally in the room with you guys when you were coming up with these songs: Backwash, Year I Lived the Day, Afraid, like all the stuff. I have tapes with me playing on them.
Yeah.
Like, we all contributed to this to one degree or another. And then the manager said to me, you have, at that point, Tommy hadn't written Brandon yet. But he's like, you got like 8 or 9 co-writes on this fucking record. So I just assumed that, hey, when the record comes out, I'm just going to, I'm going to be able to buy a bottle of Jameson and a pack of cigarettes. Whatever. So it was what it was. It's old news. It's, it's out there. That's, but it was just, and again, like, and I've even tried to give Tommy, Nikki, and Mick credit to the point where I'm like, well, they didn't actually say this to me. Their manager did.
Right.
But I couldn't sue the manager. It was like one of those things where this lawyer was advising me, and he's like, nah, dude. I did not want to sue Mick.
Right.
I did not want to sue Tommy.
Right.
Nikki had given me, as a welcome to the crew gift, Nikki talked the guys into all chipping in. They bought me a fucking Harley Davidson, for Christ's sake. Do you know what I mean? Yep. So I didn't want to sue them, but it was like, no, you kind of have to sue the corporation and them individually. And it was an ugly thing that I fucking hated doing. But again, I couldn't for the life of me figure out why. To me, I was just being disrespected.
Yeah.
I wasn't listed as they didn't even say, hey, Crab, thanks for the 5 years. Good luck in your future. It was like I didn't exist. And I just was like, fuck you guys. I was pissed.
Did that get straightened out with the lawsuit, like the songwriting and all that? And maybe
no, not really. Not really. I mean, it's funny. My back. I was just talking to my manager about this. Like, and again, this is my horseshoes and hand grenades moment.
Right.
But there's not a lot of my back material that I actually get royalties for.
Okay.
Like the Scream, it's out of print.
Right.
It's not even on any of the streaming services.
Right.
And Hollywood Records refuses to put it out. The Union stuff might be on the streaming services, but it's not available to anybody. So, I mean, unless you do like 300 billion streams,
right.
I think that totals 300 billion streams is probably equal to about $8. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't make any money from the Union stuff. I don't make any money from the Scream stuff. And Motley, honestly, it's kind of common knowledge. They're literally picking the rug up and shoving my music under a carpet. Yeah. So all that old shit that I did, I don't really get royalties for it.
Right.
It just doesn't exist.
Right.
So, but again, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like I've managed to do I made money with Ratt.
Yep.
I've done some solo records. I joined the Dead Daisies. And you know what? I'm still sitting here 36 fucking years later, still doing new music. Just got done a tour, getting ready to do another one. Life is good. But it was a weird time, man. That Motley thing was definitely a weird time.
When you got together with Union, I mean, it's like the first album comes out in '98. Was it a hindrance to have Mötley Crüe and Kiss on the bio in 1998? If that makes sense.
No, I understand what actually, you know what's funny? It was, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Union was an odd entity in itself. I remember it was weird. Like we were getting offers to go out and do possible summer tours with bands like Poison and Cinderella and
Right.
all this other shit. And all these promoters that were booking the big Poison extravaganza they used to do every year, they were looking at Union like, you can't take Union out. They're a new band. But it was weird. Now we played Dallas, Texas, and Vinny and Dime and Rex come and see us. Oh, hey, dude, man, you guys kicked ass, you know, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, man, if we can, we'll see if we can take, you know, go do some shows with us. And their managers are like, no, that's a guy from Kiss and Motley. We don't want you associated with that shit. So Union was kind of just walking up the middle, like its own path. We weren't getting any support from radio. MTV wouldn't touch us.
Right.
And then when we even did the second record, I remember Larry Mazar told us this hilarious story. When we did our second record, The Blue Room,
Yep.
he had our roughs on a CD. And he just wrote, you know, Union roughs, whatever. And I think it was Jason Flom, the radio guy, or he was Atlantic guy.
Atlantic A&R.
Yeah. So Spitfire was like a sub label, but it was set up where if you sold so many records, like 35,000 records or 50,000 records, that Atlantic would kick in their PR department because I guess Spitfire was a subsidiary of Atlantic.
Okay.
So Larry tried to head them off at the pass, and he goes into Jason Flom's office and he plays our demo, like our roughs, but he wouldn't tell him who it was. And he's like, oh man, this is great. Who is this? Larry goes, no, just listen. And he was just, and then Larry never told him. He took the CD with him, put it back in his briefcase, and he left. And he goes, Jason Flom called me every day for a week. Who is that band? I gotta have that band. That band was fucking great. Who are they? Who are they? Who are they? Finally, after 3 or 4 days, Larry goes, oh, that's Union. Union? Who the fuck is that? He goes, oh, it's Bruce Kulick from Kiss, John Corabi from Mötley Crüe, Jamie Hunting from the David Lee Roth Band, and Brent Fitz. And his immediate reaction was, I want that band, I want that band, I want that band, to, I'll never sign a band where the members are older than I am.
Right.
And that was just Union. So we did those 2 records.
Yeah.
We were selling out places all over America. We were, you know, going over to Scandinavia and Europe. We went down to South America. We played to like 2,500, 3,000 people, but it wasn't translating into record sales. And back then, that's where you made your money.
Right.
And so Bruce got offered the Grand Funk gig. I got offered the Ratt gig. And oddly enough, Jimmy and Brent got offered the touring. They were the drummer and bass player for Vince Neil for like
That's
the
right.
first couple of years. Yeah. So it was like the band never split up. We never had an issue with each other. We all still get along great.
Yeah.
It just fizzled out
Oh,
because we
those are
weren't
great
making
records.
any money.
Those are great records. Jeez.
Yeah, it was just so. This is also a little side note asterisk. You know, horseshoes and hand grenades. My dad came up with the title,
The book. Yep.
and when he told me, he goes, I said, "What the fuck does horseshoes and hand grenades mean?" He goes, "You don't have to be on the money. You just got to be close." And I go, "Well, okay, that pretty much sums up my career because I've been at the right place, but always at the wrong time, all through my career."
Did you ever get to a point where you thought, you know what? I'm out. I just don't want to do this anymore.
I thought about it a few times. Like I had a moment where I was with Ratt
Yeah.
and we played a place in Dubuque, Iowa. And it was called the Pig Pen. It was actually, I think it was called Clinton, Iowa.
Okay.
And little town. And the guy had an indoor club. I'd played there with Ratt. I played there with Union. But and behind his place, he had this huge fenced in area, probably hold 4,000 people. And he did summer concerts in the back. And I remember it was Dokken. Let me see. It was Dokken, Ratt, Warrant, LA Guns, and Firehouse on one bill.
Yeah.
So Firehouse goes up first. I'm sitting there. It's like, all right, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, Firehouse starts. And I'm looking around and the parking lot is empty. There's maybe 10 people there. Right. And I go, okay, well, maybe everybody's a little late to the party. LA Guns goes on. Now there's maybe 20 people there in this parking lot that holds like 3,000.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, this is weird. And then Warrant played, and it wasn't much better. And I started having a fucking panic attack. And I'm just sitting there going, okay, any one of these bands 10 years ago would have sold this fucking place out on their own. There's 5 bands on this bill right now. And I'm telling you right now, like the whole night, Firehouse played, LA Guns, Warrant, Ratt, Dokken. And at no point was there over 75 or 100 people there.
Holy shit.
And I just sat there and I went, man, and I was like,
Yeah.
I was starting to feel like, oh my shit, did I have my brass ring in '94?
Right.
Like, like I never even got off the ground, and it's over. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Fuck, like Icarus at least got into the air, got close to the sun before his wings melted. I'm like, I didn't even get off the ground. So I kind of started thinking like, plus I was going through a divorce.
Yep.
We finished that tour and I go, I need to just clear my head. So if you've read my book, at one point, I just said, I don't know what the fuck's going on with the music industry. My second wife is fucking certifiably nuts. I'm going to tap out for a minute. We had a year off. Ratt was going to take about a year off. So I went and got myself a commercial driver's license, and I went and just drove a semi. I brought an acoustic guitar with me. I, bought all the shit that I needed, and I just drove around America and looked at shit, looked at the Grand Canyon, went down to New Orleans. I was in Florida. I was in Georgia, just hanging out, smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee,
Yep.
and just hit reset. But I was like, I honestly was so panicked at that Pigpen show that I couldn't believe it.
Right.
Like, all 5 of these bands, 5 or 10 years prior to that, would have sold out a fucking basketball arena.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that panicked me for a minute, and I'm like, I might need to find something else to do here.
Right. I know you were briefly in Brides of Destruction, and I just wanted to ask, like, was that awkward getting back together with Nikki after all that time? And
No,
no,
well, yes and no. But it's funny, Tracy's got a little bit of a distorted viewpoint on like how this whole thing happened. Or maybe I do. I don't know. But I remember it completely differently than he does. But Ellie Guns was opening for Ratt on a tour.
Yeah.
And I was like if you were looking at the stage, I was stage left. Warren was stage right. So Tracy would sit next to me, and I always had my heads there, and I'd have an ashtray, cigarettes. I'd have a bottle of like Jack Daniels or Jameson, and then I had a cooler with Guinness in it. And Tracy would sit next to me, and we're bullshitting, and he was telling me about this band that he was in, and he goes, "Man, be awesome if you play rhythm guitar." And I go, "Dude, that's never going to happen. Nikki will never allow it." And I thought the band sounded, the demos he was playing me, it sounded cool. They were doing all these old Sweet songs. And he was telling me about this awesome singer they had named London.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Man, the band would be so cool if you would play rhythm guitar." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, He called Nikki. And then finally, Nikki, I think Tracy was talking to him one day and talked to Nikki about being a part of this thing. And so he handed me the phone, and Nikki was on the phone, and I go, "Hello?" And he goes, "Crab, Sixx." And I go, "Hey, dude." He goes, "Well, apparently Tracy talked me into working with you again." And I was like, whatever. So we bullshitted, and then when we went in, anytime we would have, I would suggest something. Nikki would just ride me like a little bit of a bike. He goes, "What, are you going to sue me again?" Whatever. But it was tongue in cheek. It was what it was.
Right.
But it wasn't like my first meeting with Nikki was a bit awkward, but we hugged and was just like, okay, we're just not going to talk about the lawsuit.
Yeah.
And whatever. But it was very short-lived because I didn't really totally fully understand musically what it was we were trying to do.
Right.
And this was also, you have to remember, I was also in Ratt.
Yeah.
And I was also doing the Dead Daisies, the Brides of Destruction thing. And this was right around the time I had done that show in Iowa.
Right.
And I'm going, fuck, I'm going through a divorce. I don't know what's going on. And I'm just not the type of person, dude, that can just do something for the paycheck.
Right. Right.
I didn't understand what they were doing. I was going through a divorce. I just had a panic attack on the road with Ratt, and I'm like, this isn't gonna work. And then this odd thing happened where Nikki just called me on the phone, and he goes, hey, dude, Tracy's not real comfortable writing with you. So him and I are going to work on everything, and we'll just teach you guys the parts later.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I hung the phone up, but then I thought about it for like a minute or two. And I called Nikki back and I go, hey, dude, I love you to death, but I'm not into that at all. Like, if I can't contribute, I don't want any part of it. So I'm out. And I left.
Yeah.
So I went and drove my truck for, you know, a bit of time and cleared my head. And then Ratt called and said we're going back out on tour with Poison. So, but I literally drove for like 6-7 months. You know what I mean?
Did you like that? I mean, did you like doing something different or?
It was, well, first of all, it was like I had never driven a semi before.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge of learning something new.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all.
But my dad became a semi driver later on in his life, and so yeah. Anyway, yeah.
And the thing that appealed to me was, now see, I love driving. Like even right now, I have a 45-foot motorhome,
Yeah.
and it's not unusual for me to pack up my wife and my dogs, and we'll go see her mom in, Melbourne, Florida,
Sure.
and I'll drive straight through. My wife's like, I don't know how the fuck you do it. And I go, I love it. I literally just sit there and I'm thinking the whole time and listening to music and whatever. So I enjoyed the solitude of not having to deal with a crazy ex-wife,
Yeah.
and just not having to deal with whatever it was that I was dealing with. And I just sat in the truck. It was the experience of learning something new. And then the third and probably most important thing was there's something about a truck and the truck horn that just makes girls want to show you their titties. It was like they pull up next to you and they're like, and they lift their. I'm like, I saw more titties on that trip than I did in the fucking 5 years with Mötley Crüe. Done deal. Where do I sign up?
I think I need to change my career, maybe. I this is my opinion, so you can just say, all right, that's your opinion. But to me, I've always felt like Nikki, and this is the last thing I'm going to ask about Nikki Sixx or Mötley Crüe, that Nikki was desperate to prove his relevance outside of Mötley Crüe. I mean, he can write songs in Mötley Crüe, but he did Brides of Destruction, then he tried 58, then he did 6 a.m. So anyway, that was my opinion, that he was always trying to prove his relevance outside of Mötley Crüe.
Yeah, to be honest with you, part of, if you look at, and again, I don't know if there was a grand plan when it came to me being in Motley, but even that record, dude, like they, when we were doing that record, if you look at the artwork and you look at how we toured that record,
Mhm.
the entire thing was the antithesis of everything they had done prior.
Yep.
And like their album covers had always been very colorful and elaborate and stage outfits. And if you look at what Nikki was wearing in most of the fucking videos that I've seen, Nikki's just wearing shorts, no shirt, and he's got a pair of Doc Martens on. And like, I remember them saying, I don't want any pyro. I don't want any tilting drum risers or flipping upside down. I want people to see that we can play. And if you look, if you have that 94 record, I'm not sure if it's on the tray or if it's on the back of the record, but it just said, listen.
Right. Yep.
And from day one, they just wanted to make a fucking statement that we're more than what you think we are. And so that whole concept of what you said, I would not say you were far off, but they had been trying to do that when I was in the band.
Yeah.
They did not want to. And at one point, like, people are like, oh, you know, I saw Corabi sing the old shit and it just sounded wrong. Yeah, probably, because I don't have the voice. It's a completely different
Right.
voice than Vince was.
Yeah.
So they said, you be you. Do it the way you would do it. Okay. So I sang Shout a little different. I didn't go up into the stratosphere like Vince did. I sang it a little bluesier. But I got to be honest with you, when we were putting the set list together, they didn't want to do any of their old shit. I was the one that was like, guys, I'm already hated. Like, there's no fucking way we can go on stage and not do Live Wire or Shout at the Devil or at least make an attempt at it.
Right.
They didn't want to do any of it. They just wanted to play the new material and that's it.
Wow.
So I don't know what their point was that they were trying to make, but they were trying to make a point even when I was in the band. Hence the record cover. It's black. They just scratched the film up and they just did a really simple font, like it was stamped on Mötley Crüe.
Yeah.
Done. And then on the back, scratched up, put the song titles, boom, listen. And that was it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that your theory is far-fetched at all.
Okay. Was there, and I've heard of this and I don't know the details, when you and Ratt were, Kolodner and Portrait Records were interested in Ratt, but Robert Mason was the vocalist. Is that, did you do a showcase for Portrait with Robert Mason?
No, I was maybe prior to me.
Okay. Okay.
I came in 2000.
Yep.
And the first lineup of Ratt that I was in was Blotzer, Warren DeMartini, Robbie Crane on bass, who I had known forever.
Yep.
Jizzy Pearl was singing.
Yeah. Okay.
And then myself on guitar.
Okay. Yeah, because Jizzy Pearl came in, and it's pretty well acknowledged after the Mason thing didn't work out. Once Portrait didn't sign Ratt, Mason was like, okay, and then Pearl. Okay, so it must have been before.
Yeah, that's actually Jizzy and I joined at the same time.
Okay.
Which was also a problem because that crazy second ex-wife I had was actually Jizzy's ex-girlfriend, which was a whole other can that we had to open before I actually joined the band. So it was hilarious at how things work out. But yeah,
you and
that
Jizzy got that straightened out, though.
Well, we had to, and it was weird. Dumb me, not thinking with my head, thinking with the other one down below. And I met Jizzy and this girl. They asked for my phone number, and I gave it to, like, because Jizzy was asking me about Spitfire Records for Love Hate. So I gave him all my info. Yeah, dude, give me a call, blah, blah, blah. And then it was weird. Like 4 days later, this chick calls me that I had met with Jizzy. And she's just sitting there bullshitting with me, like, and I'm like, Just why are you calling me? Like, aren't you like Jizzy's wife? No. Well, you're Jizzy's girlfriend. I met you with Jizzy like just a week ago. No. We're just friends. So she gave me this whole bullshit thing that they were just friends.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't even, I wasn't even flirting with her. And so we're bullshitting, talking. And she goes, "What are you doing?" Or I said something like, "Oh, I'm going to go up and play this place called the Baked Potato tonight with some friends." Oh, I love that place. So she showed up. Next thing I know, she's showing me a sword swallowing routine in the front seat of my Jeep, and she had no qualms about hanging out with me until 4 o'clock in the morning, and then she would come to rehearsals and like. So I wasn't totally putting two and two together. You know what I mean?
What?
I asked her multiple times, are you in a relationship? Nope. And it was funny, but I didn't think anything of it because she was literally, all right, why is my, okay, are you there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Uh, she literally had no qualms about hanging out with me and Bruce Kulick and my friends until 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Like she wasn't like, oh, I got to get home before Jizzy gets home from work. I wasn't getting that vibe from her at all. So she's like, no, we're just friends. And then I go on tour. I get back and she's got her own apartment. Well, then I'm like a month or two in dating this chick. And then I find out like her and Jizzy actually lived together. Yada, yada, yada. Anyway, I go do the audition with Warren DeMartini for the guitar spot. And then Warren goes, "You're in. All right, cool, whatever." And then the next day, Warren calls and goes, "Hey, and now you have to understand, I didn't even know Steven wasn't in the band at this point. I didn't know who was singing for him."
Right.
So Warren goes, "Hey, dude, apparently you have an issue with my singer." And I go, I'm, who's your singer?" And he goes, "Oh, Jizzy Pearl." I go, "Fuck me. Are you shitting me right now?" And he goes, "Do you have an issue with him?" I go, "Personally, no. He might have an issue with me." So I just put it to bed right away. I told Warren, I said, "Listen, dude, if Jizzy has an issue with me being in the band, just let me know. And I just won't even come to rehearsal." So he was like, "Okay." And so I said, "All right, cool. I'll be at rehearsal Wednesday, whatever." And I literally walked in. I brought my amp in. I put my guitar down, and I said to Jizzy, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" And he goes, "Yep." So we left the room, and I sat there man to man, and I go, "If you have an issue with me, state your case now, and I will, before I set my shit up, I will literally put it back in my car, and I'll get the fuck out of your life, and you won't have to deal with me." "No, we're good." And I'm like, "All right, cool." And at that point, we went out on the road and never really had an issue.
Okay.
So I'm like, "All right, cool." But then when that shit blew up in my face with that girl, Jizzy, I love Jizzy to death. He just looked at me. He goes, because my shit just fell apart quick.
Yeah.
Where I'm on the road, and Jizzy goes, "Well," and I go, "Yeah, go fuck yourself." And we were laughing about it. He goes, "Well, thank you. Did me a favor. You did me a favor. Thank you very much." "All right, thank you. Fuck you too." Anyway, whatever. But it was, yeah, it was definitely an interesting time.
I'm sure. You just reached the end of part one. John was gracious enough to come back a couple of days later. We did another hour, and this is part two. So please enjoy, and thank you so much for watching.
This is a continuity statement for your fans.
Yep.
I am wearing something different because we did this in two parts, and I did dye my beard today. So half of the thing I'm going to be an old guy, the other half I'm going to be a young guy, and so there we got the continuity bullshit out of the way. Let's move along. All right, here we go.
And you got your hair, and you look awesome. And look at this. Anyway,
I showered today, bro, knowing that I was coming to talk to you.
hell yeah. Yes. So we are back for part two, and man, it has been amazing. So, we were talking about Ratt, and
Yes.
you kind of explained how you and Jizzy Pearl got through kind of an awkward, beginning to become good friends.
Yep.
But I heard you say this once in an interview. You once said that Ratt sold millions of records and they can't get out of their own way. Like, as in they can't get back together. Like, what is your perspective? Because you were in the band for 8 years.
Mhm.
What went wrong? Or what's wrong that those guys can't figure it out?
You know what's funny with each one of those guys? Like, I love Bobby, I love Warren, I love Steven. Individually, they're awesome. And this is just my viewpoint or whatever, but it's weird. Like, I know when I joined, it was just Bobby and Warren.
Yeah.
And I mean, at one point, even those two guys, it would just be crazy that we would go to rehearsal. They'd say, okay, rehearsal at 12 o'clock. And, we'd set up and then we'd be standing there, Jizzy, Robbie, and myself, and then our tour manager, Craig Bradford. We'd literally be standing there and Warren would tell Bobby, like we'd start the first song, whatever it was. And Warren would go, Bob, the song's too fast. And Bob would go, no, it isn't. And then they would start discussing the tempo of the song. And I make jokes about it, but it was kind of true at some points. Like Robbie, Jizzy, and I would get in a car with Craig Bradford while they were arguing about the tempo of the first song. We would go to Subway or we would go to this burrito place near rehearsals. We would literally eat, shit, shower, shave, go check on our dry cleaning, come back, and they would still be talking about the tempo of the first song. One thought it was too fast, the other thought it was too slow.
Right.
Warren would have valid points that we're playing too much. Bobby would have a valid point, we're not playing enough. You know what I mean? And it was just they could never get out of their own way.
Yeah.
And then it was funny. They kind of kissed and made up with Steven.
Oh.
And then Steven came into the thing and then it was a three-headed monster. You know what I mean? And sometimes there would be two against one, but it was just like they just couldn't get out of their own way. And then Juan eventually came back and at that point, I don't know what the deal was. I remember going to see them at a House of Blues show somewhere, and it was Juan, Steven, Warren, Carlos Cavazzo had taken my place.
Right.
But they had God, what's his name? The drummer, Jimmy. After Bobby, I think he played with YNT or something. Jimmy.
Not DeGrasso.
Yes,
Okay.
Jimmy DeGrasso was there, and it was like, thank you.
Yep.
And it was just like, they seemed a little more chill, but it was still like, every one of those guys has a different opinion on how Ratt should operate.
Sure.
And I think to a degree, and I mean this in all due respect to all of them, because individually I love them all. But I really truly believe that they all think I'm the guy that everybody's here to see. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm the one that's writing this ship. I'm the one that's, and it's just I'm very happy to see Warren and Steven doing some shows together.
Right.
Maybe it's the beginning of, let bygones be bygones and let's sort this out. I hope it is.
Yeah.
I think they've got a ton of fans that would love to see the four remaining original members with Carlos
Yeah.
come back and do it. And just, Poison figured out how to tour and stay out of each other's way.
Right.
Mötley Crüe, Lord knows Mötley has figured out how to tour and stay out of each other's way. Just find that gray area that you can hover in and then just go say hi to each other right before you go on stage
Right.
and make it work. But they just can't seem to get that over that hump, and it's sad.
Did you like not being the front man and just hey, I'm just playing rhythm guitar? Did you like that, or did you kind of miss, like I miss being out front?
Well, yeah, I mean, eventually I did, but I got to be honest with you. Like, it was. You have to remember at this point in my career when first of all, they did ask me to sing,
Right.
and I was like, nope. I was still kind of in union,
Okay.
and I ran into Blotzer at the Key Club in LA.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, dude, we're looking for a singer, man. You interested? And I go, fuck no, dude. I no. Bought that shirt, not interested. And even Jizzy, like, I think another thing that solidified my friendship with Jizzy was I remember doing a show on that first tour. We were doing some outdoor venue thing, and Jizzy was singing, and he wasn't paying much mind, but he was singing. And every time he'd walk by this one guy that was kind of right in front of me, the guy would flip him off and all this other shit. And then he spit towards Jizzy. And I just said, fuck this. I've had enough. And I just kind of shut my guitar off and turned it around. I spun it around my back and I just reached into the audience and I grabbed this guy by his hair. And I go, dude, did you come here to have a good fucking time or did you come here to just be an asshole? If you came to be an asshole, I'm going to kick your ass and I'm going to have security throw you out of this fucking venue. Like, and he's like, no, dude, I'm cool. I'm like, listen, what happened between Ratt and Steven is between Ratt and Steven. It's got nothing to do with Jizzy.
Yeah.
Stop flipping him off and stop being a fucking jerk off. And then at that point, we were fine. We were totally fine.
Right.
But, it's just they asked me to do it. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. Then I was talking to Crane a few days later, Robbie Crane.
Yep.
And Robbie's like, yeah, dude. He didn't say anything about Jizzy coming in, but he goes, yeah, dude, we need a singer and we need a guitar player. And at this point, I was like I didn't realize I was going to be there for 8 years. I was like, well, if you need a guitar player to like at least get you started on a tour or something like that, I can do that.
Right.
And it wound up being an 8-year thing with them. But to be quite honest with you, after having gone through the Scream and then all the shit that happened with Mötley and all the shit that happened with Union,
Yep.
it was a bit of a, for lack of a better term, I know a lot of the fans are not going to be able to understand this, but it was a bit of a mental tap out. Like, because all I had to do was learn the parts. It still allowed me to go tour and play music, something I love doing, but I didn't have to worry. I wasn't worried about how many tickets were sold. I didn't worry about nothing. It was just like I told, Warren and I discussed my value to the band. He's like, okay, he agreed to it, and I just show up. I would go to rehearsal. I'd learn the set, and then once I left my door, I was on salary. I just got paid every Friday, like everybody else. And that part of it was I'm still doing what I love to do, but I don't have to worry about the inner workings of how to keep this thing running. You know what I mean? I just show up and do my job. So that part of it was a bit of a mental break,
Yep.
if it makes any sense at all.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Totally. So in 2008, they get a record deal that is going to lead to Infestation.
Yes.
And you decide that's it for you. Like how do you decide, okay, that I can't do this?
Well, um, per my earlier conversation about the rehearsals,
Yep.
and it's funny too because this is how small the universe is. Uh, the guy that actually signed me to Frontiers is the guy that signed Ratt to Roadrunner.
Okay.
So I just it was funny. We kind of he refreshed my memory. I did a Zoom call about this record that I just put out now, and I go, "Oh man, hey, nice to meet you." And he goes, "I've met you before," and I go, "Where?" He goes, "L.A. House of Blues. You're playing guitar with Ratt, and I signed the band right after your show." And I go, "Oh shit, okay, yes, I totally remember." You know, and he was laughing. He goes, "Dude, why'd you leave the band?" And we just started laughing about it. But I told him, I said, "Dude, I would watch these guys argue for an hour and a half over the tempo of the first song. There was no fucking way that you were going to get me to share a house with them in North Carolina and sit and write a record for 6 months or 5 months or however long it was." I said, that just literally sounded like it probably would have been more enjoyable to have a dentist put his fist up my ass and pull my wisdom teeth. I'm like, it just, so again, you know, this is John Corabi shooting himself in the foot. You know what I mean? I was just like, I don't want, I'm just at a point in my life, and I have been for probably the last 15 or 20 years. I'm like, I don't want any fucking drama.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it just irritates me when I see people bicker like that. I just get like, this is not fun. And honestly, I can't say it enough. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm not reinventing vanilla ice cream. I'm not fucking coming up with a cure for world peace or cancer. I play a fucking A chord and I put melody on it. That's it. And I just want to have a good time. And that did not look like a good time. And as it turned out, half of those guys, dude, I can't tell you how many times I would get secret calls from Steven, Robbie, Warren, even Carlos Cavazo, who I knew but I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I'd be on speakerphone with like two or three of them, and they'd be like, "Bro, you made the right decision." Like, and I'm like, "Fuck." I just saw that one coming. I'm like, I'm done. Tap out. See you later.
I had Robbie on. Robbie and I were on for like 3.5 hours, and that dude is one of the nicest guys. But yeah, he kind of bailed after Infestation. So
Yeah, Robbie was calling me on a somewhat regular basis, and he would just whisper into the phone and just hang up. He'd go, "Crab, I love you, brother. You made the right decision," and then hang up. And I'm like, "All right, no worries. I'm good."
and we're gonna be talking about New Day. I have my pre-order in for New Day, and shit. After we talked the other day, then I ordered your book, and I was hoping it was gonna be here today, so I could be like, dude, look, and it's coming this afternoon. So anyway, here is the book, Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. I will be reading the shit out of this pronto.
All good. Well, enjoy that one. That's an interesting read, buddy.
I
I've had a lot of positive response on that thing, man. It's been awesome.
And so we're gonna get to the Dead Daisies, and we're gonna wrap up with the new album. But in 2016, there was talk of you, and I know you've answered this before, but there was talk of you singing on the Mick Mars solo album. A lot of fans of the '94 album were flipping out over the possibility of that. Could you what happened?
Well, if you remember, well, let me back up. Mick called me when he moved to Nashville,
Yep.
and we kind of buried the hatchet about a lot of shit. Like he thought Mick never really understood why I sued the band.
Okay.
And from what he told me, he was telling me that he was under the impression that I was going to rehearsals. If you remember from our conversation the other day,
Yep.
Alan Kovac had asked me to help them finish the recording.
Yep.
And somehow Mick was under the impression that I was going into rehearsals, listening to his guitar tracks, going, oh my God, dude, this is shit. I can do this better, kind of a deal.
Right.
And that wasn't the case at all. So I literally had the opportunity finally to sit down with Mick for like 3 hours and tell him step by step everything that I was told.
Yeah.
And then he told me some shit. And we were like, okay, I went to his house, hung out with him and Serena. And then he had talked to me about helping him possibly do or write or whatever a record.
Yep.
I gave Mick what I thought was, in my opinion, I told him what I thought he should do.
Yep.
Which, to be frank, I said, Mick, you're really into like Jeff Beck, Leslie West, Mick Taylor, like all these great bluesy guys. I said, man, let's put something together, dude, and just write like almost like Mississippi Queen, or not cover those songs, but like just kind of formulate something like Old Mountain. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Do you remember the song "Never in My Life" by Mountain?
That
It's
I
like,
don't.
well, if you get a chance, check it out afterwards.
Yep.
And I said to Mick, I played it for him, and I go, dude, listen to this riff. It's from like 1970.
Yeah.
I go, imagine doing something like this with your tone and the way you play, and then I'll just belt like some cool bluesy shit over it, and it'll be like, you know, like a new version of Mountain.
Right.
And then he thought about it, and he was like, I don't know if that's what I want to do. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, then he went on tour. He was still doing the farewell tour, the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was out with the Daisies. And then I had heard that he had done some recording with Tommy Hendrickson and some other singer.
Yeah.
So I ran into Bobby O, his guitar tech of a gazillion years. And I said, oh, man, it's cool. You know, Mick got a singer and all this other shit. And Bobby goes, hold on a minute, bro. Like, he goes, like, are you going to be around? Like, I know Mick wants to talk to you. And I'm like, well, no, I got to split right after our performance. But, you know, he knows how to get in touch with me. So I got home from tour, and Mick just called and asked me, and maybe you know how this works. I'm shit with business, but apparently Mick had started proceedings on a trademark for his 1313 records.
Okay.
And the way the law works, you have to put something out in while you're holding that trademark.
Okay.
He's got so many, it's like 18 months or 2 years or something like that where you got to put something out. So Mick felt like, hey, dude, I got these two songs, not crazy about the vocals. Can you re-sing them for me? I wrote lyrics for one of the songs. I believe it was called Shake the Cage, whatever. Um, and basically, he just said, I need to put something out and hold this trademark. So I go, okay, yeah, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
So I went down to the studio. I sang the two songs. Serena was there. She took some photos and there was some video, I think, whatever. And uh, they just kind of put little snippets out of those songs with some photos of me and Mick. And then the shit hit the fan. Oh my God, they're working together.
Right.
And now, mind you, I have said to Mick, I still talk to Mick. I just texted him a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And, you know, anything I can do to help Mick, I'm all in. And like I sent Mick some early, like I think it was New Day. I sent him a copy of my record. Hey, dude, check it out. And he's like, dude, fuck, great record. So we still communicate all the time. And if there's anything I can do to help him, I'd be more than happy. But that was just really a trademark thing that he needed to do.
Okay. What did you think of how it went down with Mick getting removed from Mötley Crüe?
You know, I again, it's sad to me.
Yeah.
You know, I find it funny that when I was in the band, like all these fans were anti, you know, oh, it's, you know, Tommy, Nikki, Mick, and Vince. Vince, you can't, you know, blah, blah, blah. And regardless of the whole thing, like, this is just my opinion.
Yep.
After The Dirt came out, I know that their record sales, apparently with the younger audience, I was looking at things where it was like, I think they said their record sales went up with the younger audience, like the 18 to 30 crowd, like 1,063%. And so they went out and they did that big tour, which Mick did the tour. But then it was like, and I'm only going by what Mick said in the press and what they said in the press.
Yeah.
But from where I'm sitting, I was just like, so they did the tour in America with Def Leppard, Joan Jett, Poison, all that shit. And then it was like, okay, it was such a huge success. We're going to go do another 30 shows overseas. And Mick, from what I gather, was like, well, I did the States. That's, you know, I did that, which I think originally was only supposed to be like 15 or 18 shows. It wound up being like 30, almost double.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, wait, we're going to do another 25 shows around the world. Like, dude, I can't do that.
Right.
With the back thing.
Right.
And now, again, this is just me. At this point, it's like, all right, guys, really, like, how much money do you need? Like, just, all right, hey, we did one last hurrah with Def Leppard. Just fucking call it a day. I listen, I love John Five. He's a brilliant guitar player.
Yep.
But it's not Tommy, Nikki, Mick, and Vince.
Yeah.
I've learned that lesson. That's what the fans want. That's what they get. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, now, you know, again, a million fans have asked us why, when I did the record with Mötley, did we not change the name? Well, they had just signed that record deal with Elektra.
Yeah.
There were reasons.
Yeah.
You know, I I don't understand why, if they do want to continue to do music, new music, then just change the name. Start over and just do it. You don't need the money.
Right.
You know what I mean? You have no contractual obligations to anybody anymore.
Right.
So
you mentioned
I'm just saying keep the legacy intact.
right. You mentioned the movie The Dirt and I know like your portrayal in it. Like, do you kind of wish they just would have left you out of it and focused on or
I think I've been pretty clear about that. I mean, even Mick at one point, he wrote me a message and he goes, "Hey, Crab, just heads up, brother. I don't think you're in the movie."
okay?
This was months before it came out. And I wrote back to him, I go, "I'm good with that, dude. I don't care. I like, you know." Now, there's been some, you know, bullshit, you know, and it doesn't matter at this point. Like, this is a face of somebody that really truly doesn't give a shit anymore. It's like I did that 35 years ago. But the thing that bothered me is if you look at uh, most of the concert footage from the era, from my time with them, was it bad? Absolutely. In comparison to what they did prior to the tour with me, record sales for my record was horrible. And ticket sales for my tour was horrible. The thing that I got most annoyed about with the movie was if you look at the concert footage from the tour, it's on YouTube. I see it all the time. There's still like 4,000 or 5,000 people there.
Yes.
And the thing that annoyed me, and I don't know whose call it was, I mean, if you remember the movie, correct me if I'm wrong, but it literally made it look like they were walking into a high school gymnasium
Yeah.
to like 8 or 10 people,
Yeah.
and 9 of them had "Where's Vince" signs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it wasn't like that.
No.
It wasn't like that at all. And again, like I'm like, and the funny thing is, if you, other than the fact that it was like, you know, that Kurt Loder MTV, boom, 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 Mötley Crüe's getting former Scream singer John Corabi, so there was that little mention.
Yep.
But the actual, that guy, what's his name, Anthony, the singer guy that does all the, you know, that played me in the movie. Is Anthony or whatever his name is.
Can't remember.
I wasn't mad at him at all. You know, it was just that one scene where I was just like, okay, that they're really making it look, really making my era look like garbage.
And to be
and
fair,
I was there, what, 20 seconds in the movie?
Yeah.
I'm like, was it necessary? That's all.
To be fair, in 1994, most bands, you know, were struggling, you know, with their record sales or their tours. So to say like it was so drastically different from Mötley Crüe, that's just my opinion, but
no, but you're right. I mean, now here's the thing, and again, I could be wrong on this, so don't hold me to it. But if memory serves me correctly, what was that magazine they had? It was Music Poll or Poll Box or whatever the fuck it was. It was like for concert, whatever. I believe, as horrible as our tour was, we were still in the top 10 for actual ticket sales that year.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing was, there was a few like really horrible shows. I can tell you right now, Atlanta and Minneapolis. Minneapolis, we played a club.
Okay.
Don't know how that happened, but we played a club. And Atlanta, we went from where they played the basketball games. Then they switched us down to the Fox Theater. Then they switched us to this other place called the Roxy Theater. And it was the Roxy Theater was about the size of the whiskey and it was half full.
Right.
And it's like, I'm sorry. That to me was now there's an interesting story with that Atlanta show. Our crew guys showed up obviously before we did. They went next door, they brought our gear in and they were setting it up. And literally, like you could throw a pack of matches out the door and hit this burrito place that was right next door to the venue.
Right.
And our crew guys went in there and they were having lunch. And there was a kid working the counter and he was looking at all their passes. They all had a Motley Crue pass on. And the kid's like, dude, I fucking love Motley Crue, man, blah, 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 whatever. And he's just going on and on and on. And so one of the cruise guys said to the kid, are you coming to the show tonight? And they're like, he's like, what? Wait, Motley Crue's playing in town? Where? And they're like, right there, like right next door. The kid had no fucking idea. So is that the band's fault or is that the promoter's fault? You know what I mean? Like, how does that happen?
Right.
And, so yeah, was it horrible? Absolutely. We all, Tommy kicked in 75 grand, Nikki kicked in 75 grand. I relinquished my pay for the whole fucking tour. So I relinquished that and put it into the tour to keep it floating. And, but it was horrible, but not as bad as the movie portrayed it.
Right. Right.
That's what pissed me off.
Right.
Period.
Right. Okay. You joined the Dead Daisies in 2015. You took a couple years off in 2019. And now, like, man, I thought Light 'Em Up was fantastic. I know you guys are taking. So, what's going on with the Daisies now?
Well, it was funny. I got offered this record deal last year.
Yep.
And I was telling my manager, my manager, I said, listen, if we're going to do this, like, I don't want this to be a deal where I record a record and I got to keep putting it on hold to let it out. So I said, you're going to need to communicate and coordinate everything with the Dead Daisies. And he's like, all right, cool, whatever. Well, I went on tour last year and the manager said, listen, man, we've been going pretty hard since 2013.
Yeah.
We're going to take a year off. David Lowy, if you know the backstory there, David's father is getting up there in age. And he just wanted some time to hang out with his dad. And
Yep.
God forbid if anything happens to his dad, like how are they going to move on with the businesses? And, so he just wanted some time off. And I'm like, all right, well, this works out perfectly. I can go do my record. So the last I heard, the Daisies were taking a year off, which allowed me to do my solo record and solo tour.
Okay. Like I said, I just had Doug Aldrich on. We kind of went through that. So, last question before I get to the new album and the book. Like, what made you decide Horseshoes and Hand Grenades in 22? It's time to put all this down on paper.
Well, in 19, when I left the Daisies in very end of 18, and I got an offer to go to Australia with this guy named Danny Bozzi. He owns a company called Silverback Touring. He's a promoter down there.
Yep.
And he wanted me to come down and do those tours that I was doing in 14, the Mötley Crüe, whatever.
Yep.
I did not want to do it. But but I said, okay, finally I caved. So I got my son and cool band. We went down to Australia. We had 4 or 5 great shows that were all sold out. Um, but it was the day I arrived. We had the rest of that day off, and this guy Paul Miles, very dear friend, he owns that website Chronological Crew.
Okay.
He met us at the airport, went to the hotel with us. We all put our shit up in the room, and then came downstairs, and there was a little outdoor cafe. So we're sitting around, we're having coffee and sandwiches and stuff, and I don't know how we started talking about it, but Paul started asking me questions. Danny started asking me questions. And even the guys in my band, you know, just about Motley stuff and the Scream and just all this, whatever. And so I was just sitting there holding court, telling stories. And Paul came up to me after everybody left and he goes, you know what, Crab? He goes, I think you should do a book. And I was like, fuck no. No, but here's the reason why. Like maybe 20 years ago, I'd have been like, all right, cool, whatever. But it's been crazy now. Like most bands as a whole do a book, and then individual members do a book. Like Aerosmith, for example, there's, the Walk This Way book. Then Joe Perry did a book. Steven Tyler did a book. And then I believe at one point there was a couple of crew guys that worked with the Kiss in the 70s. They did a book, and I'm like, man, we're fucking down to the crew guys now are writing books. So I just kind of felt like, no, I feel like I'm just jumping on. It's a cash grab, and like I'm just jumping on a train right now. Like everybody's doing them. I'm not interested. And then the other thing is, I didn't feel like my life was all that fucking interesting. I'm not like the typical. Do you remember the old MTV or was it VH1 series on bands? It's like band grows up together. They start in a garage. They start writing songs, and then it's like boom, they become famous. Then they start doing drugs, and there's groupies, and there's inner fighting, and they break up, and then
Behind
10
the
years
music.
later, yeah, behind the music, and it's like there was like a format for all of them.
Yeah.
And I go, I don't fit into that format at all. I've never been a drug guy. I've never been, whatever. So I'm like, no. And Paul said something to me. He's like, man, you should think about it, dude. He goes, he goes, I think you have more fans than you realize.
Yep.
That's number one. Number two, he goes, you've always been a bit of a mystery to people. Like he goes, every record you've ever done, you've saturated the market with interviews, and then you just disappear again. Like nobody hears a peep out of you for anything.
Yeah.
And I go, it's because I like it that way. Whatever. Well, I left, and he's like, man, I think there's a lot of people that would love to know how you tick. Whatever. We did the shows. I went back to America, went through all of 2019, and then 2020 hit like 3 months in, and we had COVID.
Yeah.
And Paul, about 2 months into COVID, once everybody, I think, started realizing like, oh, this isn't going to be over in a week or two.
Right.
Paul called me again, and he goes, hey, dude, how do you feel about doing that book now? And I go, nope, I'm still not interested. He goes, hold on. What else you got going on? And I go, okay. Yeah. And then he just kind of gave me that little kick. Like, dude, honestly, I really believe that there's fans out there that want to know what makes this go on John Corabi.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, all right. And so he kind of disappeared for a minute. He said, I'm gonna research you, gonna come up with questions. And he kind of conducted it like an interview. So I would talk to him on Friday nights. He was waking up in Australia with a cup of tea, and I was just stumbling around my house with a whiskey. And he asked me questions and I just elaborated. And so he wrote everything down, put it in a book form,
Yep.
sent me a Word document. I read it, edited, took things out, added things, sent it back. We did this like 5 or 6 times. And then we finally got it to the point where we're like, okay, I kind of feel like it's a book now. Started getting pictures together, all that shit we needed. Came up with a title for it. Thank you, Dad.
Yeah.
And then we just sent it in, and Rarebirds saw it, they read it, and they're like, we want to put this book out. And it's been nice. A lot of people come up, they've got the book, I'll sign it for them. And most of the people that I've spoken with they're like, honestly, dude, this might be one of the most honest fucking books I read biographies all the time. This might be one of the most honest books I've ever read. Thank you for sharing. My only critique is you drop the F bomb like, you know, like I counted like the first 200 pages you dropped the F bomb like 400 times. You need to chill out with that, but whatever. So it was, I'm not going to win any Nobel prizes, whatever. But it's like, it's out there. Fucking have at it. You know what I mean? It's all good. I did it. Take it off the bucket list.
Right. My copy is coming today. I can't wait. Was there any, so I haven't read it yet, but was there any pushback? Like anybody who was like, dude, you told that, or why would you say this? Was there anything like that?
No, not. I mean, I haven't spoken to one of my ex-wives in about 20 years, so I don't know. She could be plotting my demise right now, but I haven't heard from anybody. And to be honest with you, like, there were certain things. I mean, trust me, I could have gotten way more fucking brutal in it.
Right.
But I'm like, you know what? That's then. This is now. Like, I'm really not here to like even my second ex-wife, who I just was not happy with. I'm like, you know what? She apparently found God. She's remarried. Like, I'm not out to fucking ruin her life. I'm just telling my story and how I felt when I was going through all these different things. So I really, like, that was one of the parts of editing that, like, because I was blatantly honest in the beginning. But then when you read something in print, you're like, oh, that's pretty fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Let me soften that up a little bit. They still get the point. They know what happened without being brutal about it. So I just kind of edited some things just to, I'm being as honest as I can, but it's not like, I don't feel like it's going to ruin anybody's life. You know what I mean?
Right. You did an unplugged album in 2012. You did that live 94 album, One Night in Nashville in 2018. You put out your first album with The Scream in 91. You're putting out One Day in 2026. Did you ever think you'd still be doing this 35 years later?
No. I was just thinking about that. Actually, it was funny today. I just saw some post the Daisies did where it's like this last concert we did last year. Uh, we played this festival called the Stone Dead Festival,
Mm-hmm.
and unbeknownst to us, they recorded it.
Yeah.
And initially it was going to be like a download thing for the fans. Well, I guess the response has been so good that they're actually doing a vinyl record of it now.
Okay.
But it's like, I mean, if I actually sat here and counted all the fucking records I've done, it's actually more than 19.
Yeah.
But I just go by the ones that I actually wrote the songs for.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like, dude, I've done fucking 19 records, which is, not to sound weird, but that's a lot of music.
Yeah.
And 1991, so what's that? 2001, 2011, 2021. So in 35 years, I've done like 19 records, but it's actually more with some of the other songs. I had a song on a Ratt record. I had, I wrote with a band called Cinder Road and just different country artists and shit that I've written with.
Yep.
And so I've been pretty busy.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wish I was still here talking about the 19th or 20th Scream record,
Yeah.
but my cards didn't play that way.
Right.
But fuck, all I was concerned with was getting a record deal. And it's like, here I am, 5 or 6 record deals later. And then I have a guy like Tom Lipsky and Jeff Stevenson from Frontiers, and they go, you know what, dude? We've been following your career. We believe in you. We're gonna fucking it's our mission in life to make you a household name. So that's all I can ask for. But did I think I'd be here this 35 years later, 40 years later? Fuck no. Not a chance. And at one point, I think I told you I was having panic attacks.
Yep.
I was like, fuck, I peaked in 94. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so sitting here today with you now is like, no fucking way did I think I would still be here contributing.
Right. So New Day is coming out on April 24th. We talked a little bit, but you put out 3 singles. Like what's your hope for this album? And like, tell me about it coming together.
Well, without like overshooting the runway or asking for too much, personally, I would like for this to sell 1 copy more than Thriller. In my humble opinion, I think it could do it.
Right.
But I'm actually later after I get done talking to you, I have dance classes here so I can figure out those Michael Jackson moves.
You
Anyway,
have a white glove?
well, it was white when I started. It's got little brown fingertips now, but whatever. Honestly, dude, like, I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah.
Like, I love the fact that the record label said to me, "We believe in you." I'm very grateful for another opportunity to prove my worth, or whatever you want to call it. But God, man, it's so fucking weird now and so odd. Like figuring, like I was saying the last time I talked to you, like this new streaming method and like algorithms and self-marketing. Like I've always been a self-marketer. Like I used to go down on Sunset Strip with posters and flyers and but this is a whole other area that I'm not real comfortable with. So it's just there's so many variables to what makes a record successful or a failure. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed, because at the end of the day, uh, you know, at the end of the day now, especially now, like before, sorry, I have a fucking camera on the front of my house, and my thing is keeps trying to tell me that there's somebody in my doorway,
Oh,
and it's like my wife leaving.
okay.
The variables now, like it was weird. Like in the MTV generation, it's like you had your record labels. They hit up all the radio stations who were still playing ball with a lot of the bands. And so you had your radio stations. You had a division at most record labels that knew somebody at MTV that could help get your video on there, and you just had that avenue. You had that way to pummel people with your new music and your new videos. And now it's kind of gotten back to the way it was in the 60s and 70s, where it's really about word of mouth.
Yeah. Yep.
And like the guys like you and all these podcasts and interviews that I've been doing, it's not with any of the hit paraders and circus and metal edge. It's just these people that have 1,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers or whatever it is, and it's just word of mouth, which is kind of what Grand Funk Railroad and Aerosmith and all those bands did in the beginning. So I'm just hoping that word of mouth gets out there and it just catches fire and it just goes. I would love nothing more. I mean, I'm still the same guy that I was in Motley Crue, but I think with this record, I'm showing people that there's more depth to me than just being that guy. And I just hope that catches fire. Do you know what I mean?
I'm still a CD guy. Like, this is my purchases over probably a few months, maybe. But
That's awesome.
we have, so there's 14,000 subscribers to this channel, and I host, I think I told you before, I have a weekly show on Rock 101 KLOL. I've played New Day. It's just one day a week. So I played New Day last weekend. I probably played it 4 times. And so I have an advance copy of the album, and here's what is intriguing to me. We kind of talked about, like, oh, you could hear this played in the 70s. I hear the CCR influence and the Rolling Stones, but it doesn't sound like, and I don't want this to sound like I'm slagging other bands. I'm not. But you're not trying to write like, okay, I got to pretend like I'm 22 and write about partying and being crazy. Like, I feel like this is an album that I can relate to now. And that's what I find intriguing about it. You're not going, okay, like I got to write like I'm still in the Scream.
Yeah, but that's one of the most brilliant interviews I've ever seen in my life, and I think we may have even touched on this the other day. Like Robert Plant was just interviewed by. There's a video floating around if you type in Robert Plant Dan Rather, and it's funny because he's asking Robert Plant, like he basically says something like, am I mistaken? Did I read this wrong? I read somewhere that you do not enjoy performing Stairway to Heaven, which is like your landmark song. And Robert just kind of sat there for a minute and he goes, yeah, but you have to understand. He goes, musically, it was this grand piece of music. And he goes, maybe if I would have been involved in the musical part of writing the song, I'd feel differently about it. But he goes, from a lyrical point of view, which is all I was involved in, he goes, those are the words of a 23-year-old boy. That's how old I was when I recorded that record. And he goes, I'm 70 now. I don't think the same way I did when I was 23. So, you know, there was no rhyme or reason to any of the songs on this record at all. It was just whatever thought popped in my head, that's what I wrote about. But the thoughts that pop into this head are not the same thoughts that popped into the head of the guy in the Scream, or even Motley for that matter. And, you know, I know there was even one point, I was just looking at, a couple weeks ago, I was looking at some of the comments on like the New Day video, and these fans are like, yeah, I mean, it's good, but, I'm just waiting for him to do something heavy again, like the Motley record. And I'm like, I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's like, at what point? And I'll tell you another moment where I had this thought. But at what point do you just sit there and go, I don't want to be that guy that walks out on stage with like, I mean, at Motley Crue, I used to dye my hair black. So do I need to dye my hair black and put on 8 pounds of fucking eyeliner and leather pants and act the way I did when I was 30?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that. And it was funny. I had this moment. It was a few years back, right after I came back to the Daisies. And I was on stage with them. And I think our first song was Long Way to Go. And then we went into this, or no. It was Light 'em Up. And our second song was Rise Up, which is a heavy song from the Burn It Down record.
Yep.
And then Doug steps up and he's doing the solo, and I go back to the drum riser, and I'm just sitting back there and I'm doing all this crazy shit, and I'm throwing my hair around and all this stuff. And I'm just talking to myself. And I'm literally laughing, like if people could actually hear the thoughts that are going on in my head. I'm literally laughing to myself going, bro, you might want to take it easy, bro. You might throw a hip. You might break a fucking hip, dude. You're not fucking 30 anymore. You're 65, bro. Don't jump off the drummer out there. Fuck. Okay, just make sure you land flat. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to sit and think about what I'm doing on stage. I've always liked acoustic music. I've always appreciated all kinds of music. So I just kind of I just started steering myself in a still rock and roll.
Yeah.
I'm still playing rock and roll. And we just got done doing a tour. I was doing Do Your Own Thing by the Union. We're do a fucking epic version of Man in the Moon at the thing, just throwing down. And it's like I still got it in me, but it's like, okay, let's just now I know where to put on the gas and put on the brake though too. So I don't want to be one of those guys that people, and trust me, you see it all the times. People start talking about, oh my God, he's not singing as good as he used to.
Right.
Oh my God, he looks like shit. I see some of the brutal comments about Vince.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, seriously. So I just don't want to get into a position where it's like, whatever. If you're gonna say anything about me, you're gonna just say, well, he's kind of letting his foot off the gas a little bit.
Right.
He's not giving up, but I just want to grow gracefully.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Into the next part of my life, next chapters of my life.
I realize that asking an artist to I'm not asking you to pick your favorite song. That's like asking you to pick your favorite kid. But are there any songs that you are closer to that you're like, this represents me or where I'm at right now on New Day?
Oh God. I really, I really love. Now this is today. Tomorrow I could have a completely different whatever, but I love the whole record.
Yeah.
But I think personally, uh, I think personally, my two favorite lyrically, I don't know what it is about the songs, but I think I just nailed it lyrically with When I Was Young.
Yeah. Yep.
And also 1969.
That song needs to be a single and video, I think. And I didn't mean to interrupt, but when you said
No,
that,
no, no.
like, oh,
No, and it's just, again, like I don't know how old you are. I'm going to be 67 next month.
yep.
You know what I mean? So I'm already I can see 70 at the end of the tunnel. Um so I get it. There's some people that may not be able to understand the lyrics. My wife, I had to explain it to my wife, and even the guy I did do a video for 1969. It's waiting. It's in the
Okay.
wings.
Okay.
But even the guy that did the video, he was like, "What the fuck does this mean?" Like I don't understand. Like, and it's right out of the gate. The first line, my wife and this guy go, "What the fuck does 5 for a nickel, 10 for a dime mean?" I go, "Obviously, neither one of you guys smoked weed before, because that's what I used to pay for weed." And they're like, "Oh, well, who's Judy and Brian?" That's Judy Garland, Brian Jones.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I just walk them line through line. But I was 10 or 11 years old then, bro. Like, I fucking remember every one of those things that I talk about in that song. So I think those two songs today are the ones that, you know, uh, really, for me, lyrically, are the ones that I feel like I nailed it. From a guy my age, when I was young, just really kind of going back, but it's like almost it. And my wife said it too. Like the last line of the third verse, she goes, "Every time you sing it, I get goosebumps because you. It's like you're reminiscing." And then the last line is, "Can you hear me, son?" It's like you're having a conversation with your son, telling him all the things you did right and all the things you did wrong. So from a parental standpoint, she thought she goes, "That's fucking amazing. I love it."
And then I just wanted to throw this out there. The song "Love That'll Never Be."
Yes.
I've listened to that. I couldn't even tell you how many times. You in the lyrics, like you say time they say heals everything, but not goodbyes. And then later on it changes. Time they say heals everything, but not this time. I just like my heart kind of broke and I just got goosebumps listening to that song. So that song is I feel like if anything's a hit, oh my God, that song.
Well, it's funny. We did like again, and you asked me how many songs were written for this record, and like I did do Bella, I did do Your Own Worst Enemy, but that was the third song that I had worked on with Marty. And so when I got together with the Daisies, I actually offered them that song, which we did a version of it, but we literally took parts of this version out. Like the pre-chorus was taken out, and just a lot of it. We trimmed it down a lot, and we did a bit of a different thing where it was more Allman Brothers with Doug doing slide work, and he did a brilliant job on it. Um, the thing was, when we did that song last on the Light 'Em Up record, and we were gearing up. The label was gearing up to do the blues record,
Yep.
and I just kind of felt like it wasn't really totally given enough time to grow on people. I think there was maybe a 13 or 14-day window where the Daisies put the video out for Love That'll Never Be. And then 13 days later, a video came out for Crossroads, which kind of ended
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I was a little bummed out about that. But then the more I listened to the original version of it, I told Marty, I said, hey, man, like you and I wrote this song. Would it be weird to put the original version on our new record? Because if you remember, like there's a part in there where I go, time again, plays the same old song. Don't know what you got till it's gone.
Yep.
And then that time, and he goes, nah, dude. Like, and even my wife said it kind of makes more sense with that part in there. So I go, you know what? Fuck it. Just put Love That'll Never Be, reprise or reprise, however you want to say it.
Right.
And just put it on the record.
Yeah.
The rest of the songs were written like once I jumped back into the studio with Marty. So
what's the tour plan? I know you got to run with Tom Kiefer coming up, and I'm hoping to see you in Medina, Minnesota, May 15th. Anyway.
yeah, no, I'm definitely doing Medina with Tom. But it's right now, like there was a little bit of a misconception with my booking agent. I just had to tell him. He thought he read the thing wrong. So the Daisies put out a bunch of dates for March of 27,
Okay.
and he's like, "Oh, you're touring in March," and I go, "No, I'm not." Like, dude, book. Like, just book away.
Right.
He goes, "Well, the Daisies have dates." I go, "In 2027." So he went and he looked again. He goes, "Ah, fuck, my bad." So I just said, "Look, dude, just book away." So I've got shows that I'm doing where it's just me and Tom. I've got some of the shows, it's Tom, Buckcherry, and me.
Yes.
And then there's even a few now that my agent has got where it's just me with a local band opening or whatever. So I just want to be busy, dude. I believe in this record. And again, the only way people are going to hear it is if I'm playing it live and people like yourself do the word of mouth thing. You know what I mean? So,
Right. I will, and I'll have the purchase link in the description. It comes out April 24th. You'll be hearing stuff on my radio show, so I encourage everyone to what else do you have left to accomplish? I mean, how much longer does John Corabi want to rock? I mean,
listen, dude, I can tell you this right now. This is all I know how to do. At some point, I got to get into my bedroom because right now it looks like a bomb went off in it because my suitcase from the tour, everything's just laying everywhere. But I got a Pro Tools rig in there, and my goal is to be, if I can be half as good as Marty and his son Evan, then I just want to continue to write whatever comes into my brain, put it down on tape, have a little catalog of finished music that I can either collaborate with other people on, or I maybe even get into producing. But music is what I do. And trust me, my wife says it all the time. I am not permitted to play with power tools. So this is all I got. This is all I can do. And for all those fans that don't like me, I'm sorry. I'm going to be like the cockroach in your life.
I'm gonna wrap. You had, this is just completely off topic, and so you said you worked with Dean Davidson back in the day from Britney
Yes, sir.
Fox. Do you ever talk to him, and why do you think he disappeared? The guy was obviously really talented.
Yeah, I know it was weird. Like Dean had been talking to me about Britney Fox concept when he played drums with me. And um, Dean's a great dude. I hope I know that Dean's always been he's always been one of his, not a fault, but Dean's always been a bit of a, he can be stubborn, dig his heels in. And if you remember Dean back in the day, he's always been a bit of a muscle head. So trying to move him was like a fire hydrant. Um, so the thing that confused me was he did the Britney Fox thing, which he had always been talking about. I mean, God, in the late 70s, he was talking about this concept he had, Britney Fox. And I was like, okay, that's cool, whatever. And then he did Black Eyed Susan, which was almost a left turn from where Britney Fox was. It was more organic, almost Black Crowes-y,
Yes.
whatever. And I don't know why Dean did that. It was cool because that was one of the first tours I did. It was the Scream, Black Eyed Susan, and the Bullet Boys.
Okay.
And we had a blast with those guys. But I don't know why he did it. I don't know why he took that left turn. And like I just talked to, I want to say it was about a year ago. He shot me a message and then we were talking via Messenger or Instagram or something. And I called him and we were just bullshitting. He's like, oh, hey, dude, I got all these songs and blah, blah, blah. I go, well, fucking do something with them.
Right.
Like, I don't know, dude. Like, and I tell all my friends this: the age of going into a studio and paying $2,000 a day for a studio and then a producer and whatever, it's gone. For not all the studios, the heavyweights are still there; they're still doing their thing, but most artists, and I just told, I was just talking to Brandon Gibbs.
Yep.
Brandon's another good friend of mine. He played guitar with me for a little bit. And I was talking to Brandon and I said to Brandon, like, dude, COVID made me rethink everything. I was pissed at myself because I had done all these records and I was the guy that would just walk in with a guitar and an idea. And I would say to the engineer, the producer, hey, give me that George Harrison guitar tone or, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, great. And I never paid attention to what they were doing to get that sound.
Right.
Well, I took, when COVID happened, I was very envious of all the guys, the Marty Fredricksons, and all these guys that actually sat down years ago and figured out how to do Pro Tools. So I was telling my wife, I go, God, I'm so fucking pissed at myself. Like, why did I not I could be literally recording songs here during this break when nobody was working. And I said, I could be writing and recording and just do johncorabi.com. If you want to download this song, give me $1, whatever. At least you're still making money.
Right.
And that sounds harsh, folks, but at the end of the day, this is the music business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did not work for 3 years and completely drained my bank account, credit cards, all that shit. So
Right.
just keeping it real here, folks. So I was sitting there thinking, fuck, man, I should have done this. Anyway, long story even longer. I bought a computer. I bought an interface. I contacted this guy, that worked for Avid, and he was an instructor, and we did online classes, and he showed me the basics on how to use Pro Tools. And then I sat down. One of the first things I ever recorded was Cosy Bella at my house.
Yep.
And it was painfully slow. I made a ton of mistakes, but I'd go back, erase, start over. And finally got it to where I liked it, send it to Marty. But I tell all my friends, like, if you're gonna do this, invest in Pro Tools.
Yep.
Figure out, and there's other things. There's Cubase, there's Logic, there's all these different formats you can use. Most of them talk to each other, but I go, just learn Pro Tools. And like Marty helped me with that. He goes, dude, fuck Logic, fuck Cubase. He's like, 90% of the producers that are writing music, recording music, all this shit, they all use Pro Tools. So just learn Pro Tools. And then that way you can send me files. I can just upload them and it's done. I don't have to run them through another program so that my system understands the other system. But that's what I want to get into. I want to be able to just sit here and write.
Right.
I want to continue to write music because, again, my wife laughs at me. She's got a photo of me like I got a fucking chainsaw. I'm wearing sunglasses. I got a beanie on. I got all this jewelry hanging down, and I'm literally the cord, and I'm literally pulling the saw towards me. And she posted the photo, and all these people are like, "Oh my God, count his fingers. Tell him to go away from his body," and like all the shit. So my wife just sits there. I go, "Yeah, man, I'm gonna get up on the roof and trim that tree." She's like, "Fuck, you are. We're gonna spend $500 and have somebody come and do it." So this is all I got, kids. This is all I do, all I know, and like my manager says, there's people that are musicians, and then there's people that are lifers, and you're a lifer.
Man, I'm gonna have your website down in the description. I'll have the purchase link for New Day. You have been one of my favorite artists for so many years, and I just gotta say, this was one of the best interviews, and I've done a ton of them. One of my favorite interviews. So, John Corabi, thank you so much.
And you know what, Anthony? I'm a fan as well because I've watched a lot of your interviews. I did see your one with Robbie Crane.
Okay.
And I love your little like the what was it when you guys rank all the Motley records,
Do all the album
and I was
reviews.
like, I was just sitting there like chewing on my fingernails like 3 out of 4 ain't bad. That one guy can suck it. I'm only kidding. I don't give a shit. Whatever.
Totally.
It's all good.
Man, thanks again. Hey, I will email John when this is coming out. But if you ever have anything you want to promote, you are always welcome back on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and if you're near Medina, dude, come back and say hello. We'll have a beer or something.
I absolutely I will, and I will be at that show. So look forward to it.
All right, brother.
All right, take care, man.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.